Alrighty. Are we live? I said, are we live? I don't know why the PC usage is so high, but okay.
Yeah, bro, DERRICK. Oh man, shit. What little something, gotta keep it going. Keep me feel bad. I'm a loser. That's what I am. A loser. With a plan that I never get to execute. So I dispute my place. Hell back on my race fighting. I never aim battle against the point. Who's hard to rap? It's invisible. It's always there, here, everywhere for us to win. Affecting everything that I do constantly. Reminding me who I am. Is that nagging voice lingering in my mind. Every time I talk to yourself, what's a lot of times that make me believe. Them F always. You're not worthy. You know what's so accepted. You never be respected or might be on the over to desire. You're a loser. That's what you are. A loser who will never be a star. I get to the past, all poet laureate, and I'm ready to back you up and you hit on back on the scene. And I want quick ready to leave. And these young folks don't know about the ever show the on because this is the one man show. The jock who rocks the man with the plan. I'm breaking down so you can understand where I'm coming from. If you went to public school, I know you're dumb. Yo, I ain't tripping. Yo, I'm mad flipping. Yo, I ain't tripping, I'm just flipping. Straight sipping, cruising for the hot spot, get into situations that I need not be. Situations that I need not see. I gotta be the work at 8 in the morning. The boss won't like it if I'm yawning. Check it, we got a full tank in the G, 400 watt chicken ghetto beef. 4 young men on the creek, and our best kids been flexing. Up there, and some sucker starts stressing. Always looking for a good time, not a good crime, feeling good round top. Look, there's that girl named Latrell. She got 5 kids. She's as fine as hell. She's nice to look at, but I wouldn't hit that cat with a bat. Yo, she gets no wood cause she's good. Almost every brother in the damn hood. Yo, I ain't tripping, yo. I'm mad flipping. I'ma keep those rap that you can't debate. If you challenge me, son, there is no debate. Don't say I'm arrogant, I don't think so. I'm just confident when I move down to oppose me. The people young brother, who knows the competition only makes from the fact that I back on these booty MCs. Who knows the title master of sermon? Especially those phony things, wanna be pretenders. I could get off in the vendor. No need, you all sound the same. Warren Wayne, but there's a ring up home. A man like me who can cope with the bump, get pop, and fuck with this red light. Who got nails? Or who got pop last week? Well, that's old. I'm not impressed on me. Why? I just buy your tape and get the rest of these million. I bought up these for attitudes and no job. Who would turn out more than a good off? Get knocked, but you can't get in. Cause you're dealing with the real MC, my friend. Yo, I ain't tripping. I'm straight flipping.
Yeah, so was I.
The little dancers who dance and gyrate, come with your CD or tape.
But I ain't like the spacing.
The little dancers who dance and gyrate, come with your CD or tape. The little dancers who dance and gyrate, come with your CD or tape. That's the only thing about rock that I do like. Sometimes someone when you grab them like a sight. But on top of the riff-raff, I can't help but laugh at the image you're trying to portray. You try to sound hard, but you really sound silly like a little from Philly. I'm trash, when we know you suck. Big way to make come from. Yo, straight up, I'm tripping. Listen.
Alright, I just hit Naya up. No, not about kids.
I'm feeling it. Yo, this is how I do. I'm the cerebral assassin, harassing, mentally challenged, 40-ounce drinking. No, I'm thinking imbecile, look at the floor, I'm posing you for a fraud. You backed by click, I'm backed by God. That's who I associate with, so get on the bandwagon or face this dragon. Why you think I do what I do? Stop you doing this around. Why you not pound into your eardrum? This is wake up call, so get up a ball. Stop doing that thing, because these will help put you to work. I don't remember that easy money gonna rob you God's grace. I put it out there, Steve, that's my job. You can take it or leave it. You don't have to believe. You can do nothing. Stay black and die. I know I'm gonna shine. As long as I'm around about things that make you think, like drug, education, poverty, business, sex. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to respect it. You exit. Someone else enters. Cycle continues. I don't soul in for a menu of indoctrination from the conscience of this generation who had too much time on their hands. Got money and fuck to still being led around by the man.
second, y'all. Letting everybody know we're on. Oh, man, I didn't mean to do that. Well, we got a moment. Prayers came on earlier today. I bookmarked it. Looked like the press was giving him a hard time. I bought something today, Liz, that I never tried before. Now, my mother was notorious for using it. I have never used it before, and I'm being honest. I've never used it before. But I bought some Crisco, the hard kind. You know, like I said, I got my notification just went out. I'm known for my mother was known for using the hard kind of Crisco. You know, the white lard form. So I got that. So I got the ham. So I'll eat that tonight. But tomorrow we're gonna like I said, I got some grease in a bowl. If that's not enough, I'm gonna add some of that lard to it. I've never used the lard before, but I guess it should be the same thing. It's just the grease hardened, right? So, like I said, no, I got the eggs, and I put them in the basket with the English muffins, and they not broken. So, it wasn't the ride home, and it's windy today. I mean, it's really windy. It's almost like hurricane conditions. I was being blown down the mountain trying to get up it. We're going to take a look. I got the footage from the other camera. I hope y'all realize that all you got to do is turn the screen around. I know that the camera is set on me. But you can turn the screen around. If you on your phone, just take your finger and move it. And if you on the PC, take your mouse, right? Press down on the screen, and then you can maneuver it around however you want. So if you wanted to look at with the sales, the prices, things like that. What I like about the other camera is when we watch it on the Windows Media Player, it's clear. And that's a question that I needed y'all to tell me. We normally do it at 12:7 something, which is above standard HD. But you're supposed to be doing 4K to 5.7K. So I took it up to 2K. And I don't know. Hey, how you doing, Spirit Vox Paranormal Dundee? I need to know because I didn't see it. I ain't seen the footage yet. I need to know how did it look because we really taxed the Wi-Fi hotspot today. So I'm really curious to know how that footage looked. But we got the footage from the other 360-degree camera. And I'll be showing that later on. But first, we're going to, first I got to do the theme song, which I ain't done yet. Then we're going to look at our case numbers. Then we're going to look at the press jump on the president. And then if y'all got any links, we'll play them. So, let's get started. Hey, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
My bad, you can take that out. So I got both media players open. Hey man, hold on a sec. Why we down to 36 frames a second? Something ain't right. Now, I know I expanded the screen to a 2K base, but we still mixing it down to 720. Why? What's wrong with the output? So what is it on? It's on super fast. All right, I'll put it on ultra fast and hit apply. And I can't change the other settings, so we had to roll with that. All right, I put it on ultra fast. Now it's on the CPU went higher. Why is the CPU going higher? Something ain't right. It should be going down. Because if it's still at 48%, I could have just left it. I'm being honest. I could have just left it. You know, it's different settings. The more you put more pressure on the encoder, the higher you go. But when you make it read the information slower, you get better quality. So I moved it up to the our CPU should be around 30%. It's at 50%. I wonder if it's the music program, if it's the microphone programs. Let me close them and see if that helped. Let me close the microphone programs. Did that help? It dropped down to 48. Nope, it's still at 50%. So that wasn't it. I closed the programs. All right. I don't know why we sitting at 50%. Am I freezing to y'all? Do y'all see me freezing? Is there a difference in the quality? Hey, what's going on, Naya? Wait a minute. Liz said she sent some links. Hold on a second. Because I might have gotten them. Let me pull up the... Did we get any links today? Husband, woman famous Thanksgiving test, stranger dies. Was that one of your links, Liz? Wait a minute. Let me back out. Okay. Oh, Lord, there's so many here. Hold on. We in March 22nd, March 25th, 30, April the 1st. Today is the 10th. So that's 3rd, 5th, 6th. Hold on a sec. We're looking for Liz's links. 9th. Okay, hold on. Are these the same ones? Share link. All right, now go back. Is that the only ones? Go back. All right, if you sent 2 of them, I got both of them. Okay. So, all right, y'all, let's get started here. Would have been nice to get a... Nope, it's still frozen. Oh, well. We'll do it on a dry throat. Y'all know something? I thought that I had something white right here, and it's not. I need to go finish shaving. I had left, the goatee. Well, it looks like it leaves something white right there. But anyway, That's just gray hair. Getting old. All right, y'all, let's get it. Oh, let me know how the volume is, y'all. Come on and hold me tight, but all you wanna do is fuss, cuss, argue, and fight. See, y'all ain't right. All I wanna do is hold you tight, but all you wanna do is fuss, cuss, argue, and fight. I can't help you out with that, but check this out. Take it easy and take it slow. Welcome to the BD Show. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the Brother Derrick Show. You other YouTubers, y'all straight greasy. Your whack beef videos sound cheesy. Please, somebody release me. Take it easy and take it slow. Welcome to the BD Show. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the Brother Derrick Show. I ain't stressing. I'm here to teach a lesson. I ain't stressing. I'm here to teach a lesson. I ain't stressing. I'm here to teach a lesson. Keeping you other YouTubers out there guessing. So take it easy and take it slow. Welcome to the BD Show. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the Brother Derrick Show. You other YouTubers, y'all straight greasy. Your whack beef videos sound cheesy. Please, somebody call Jeezy. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the BD Show. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the Brother Derrick Show. Hold me tight. Hey, don't turn off the light. Hold me tight. Hey, don't turn off the light. Bring my beat back. Hold me tight. Hey, don't turn off the light. Don't turn off the light. But take it easy and take it slow. Welcome to the BD Show. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the Brother Derrick Show. You other YouTubers, y'all straight greasy. Your whack beef videos sound cheesy. Please, somebody release me. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the BD Show. Take it easy and take it slow. And welcome to the Brother Derrick Show. Hold me tight. Hey, don't turn off the light. Hold me tight. Hey, don't turn off the light. Don't turn off the light. But take it easy and take it slow. Welcome to the Minister, Brother Derrick Show. Alrighty, y'all. We had to get that in. Let me take the chat real quick. See who here. We got Spirit Vox. We got Liz, Naya. The driver's here. Alrighty. The driver's here. That means y'all know what we got to do when the driver shows up. Y'all know what we need to do here. Let's check on the numbers. All right, Naya, you said 500,000. Child, we had 495,750. We getting there. We getting to that 500,000. We're going to hit it by tomorrow. Deaths, 18,430 people have died in the United States of America. 26,783 have recovered. State of New York, we reached the peak yet? Let's take a look. They had 170,512 cases. They picked up 9,008 new cases today. They've had 7,844 deaths. 777 people died today. Yesterday it was 699. Today, 777 New York, United States citizens died today. 777 people. New Jersey, 54,588 cases. They picked up 3,561. We got 1,932 total deaths. 232 people died in the state of New Jersey. Michigan, 22,783 cases. They picked up 1,279. 1,281 people have died so far in the state of Michigan. 205 people died today in Michigan. Has anybody heard from VD today? Massachusetts, 20,974 total cases. They picked up 2,033 cases today. 599 people died in Massachusetts. 96 people died today. California, 20,398 total cases. 427 new cases today. 559 people have died in California. Nobody died today. Pennsylvania, they got 19,979 cases. 1,433 new cases. 416 deaths, 56 people died in the state of Pennsylvania today. Louisiana, 19,253 cases. New cases, they picked up 970 today. Total deaths, 755. And 53 people died in Louisiana. Illinois, 17,887 total cases. 1,465 new cases. Total deaths, 596. 68 people died in Illinois today. Florida, 17,531. 705 new cases. Total death, 390. 19 people died in the state of Florida today. Texas, 11,671. 245 new cases. 226 people have died in the state of Texas. 4 people died today. Georgia, 11,483. They picked up 598 cases. 416 total deaths. 4 people died in Georgia today. Connecticut catches a break. 9,784 total cases. No new cases today. 380 deaths. No deaths in Connecticut. Washington, 9,740. 88 new cases today. 455 total deaths. Nobody died today. Maryland, 6,968. 783 new cases today. Total deaths, 171. 33 people died in my state today. Indiana, 6,907. They picked up 556 cases today. 300 people have died. 55 people died in the state of Indiana today. Colorado, 6,202. No new cases. 226 total deaths. No new deaths. Ohio, 5,878. 366 new cases. Total deaths, 231. 18 people died in Ohio today. Let's go to the places we care about. Virginia, 4,509. 467 new cases. 121 people have died in that state. 12 people died today. North Carolina, where our friend No Night Kaz lives, 3,958 total cases. They picked up 135 today. 81 total deaths. 6 people died in North Carolina today. And where's the driver's state? South Carolina, 3,065 total cases. 273 new cases today. 72 deaths. 5 people died in South Carolina today. This gives us a total of 27,184 new cases. We have 495,750 total cases, 18,430 deaths for the country, and 1,740 United States citizens died today. Today. Let me check the chat. Oh, man. Hey, what's going on, Brittany? That's a daggone shame. We lost a lot of people today. New York, I don't know what to say. New York. All right, these links are from Liz. It's ABC News. Husband of woman famous for Thanksgiving texts a stranger dies of COV. So is this a story here? Because I can read it. Let's wait and see. Can y'all see it? Yeah. This commercial still got 12 seconds left on it. God darn, they're making them longer and longer. They're going to make sure you see that commercial. They're going to make sure of it. You ready? Oh my goodness.
If we hit the peak in New York, it's tough to tell, George. We very well may be there. You know, when you talk about peak, it goes up, it does this, and then it starts to come down. It's really looking like it's going to make that turn.
The hospitalization rate does suggest that it's coming down, and we are flattening the curve.
That says that shelter in place and social distancing are working.
A crew member aboard the Mercy Hospital ship has tested positive for COV. So the ship coming, the USNS Mercy began treating non-COV patients. The crew member is isolated in the ship, aboard the ship, and will soon transfer to an off-ship isolation. Sub-Saharan Africa facing recession. Sub-Saharan Africa has experienced its first recession in 25 years. Economic in the region could fall from 2.4 to 5.2. This will cost the region between 37 billion and 79 billion in output losses for 2020. The pandemic could also spark a food scarcity crisis due to a decline in agricultural production and food imports. Countries and territories with confirmed cases. All right, let's get the little story. The husband of a woman who became famous in 2016 for a Thanksgiving-related texting mix-up has died from complications related to COVID. Lonnie Dench, whose wife Wanda sent a text presumably to her grandson, but actually to Jamal Hinton 4 years ago, died over the weekend, according to Hinton, who spent the last 4 Thanksgivings with the family. Wanda told me all the love and support he was receiving put a huge smile on his face, so I thank every one of you guys for that, he wrote on Twitter. Hinton, 20, previously had tweeted that both Lonnie and Wanda had tested positive for the CV. As of Thursday, Wanda was no longer sick, Hinton said. At least 15,774 people in the U.S. have died after contracting the virus, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. When Wanda sent that first text in 2016, thinking it was to her grandson, Hinton responded by asking her to send a photo of herself so he could confirm it was his own grandmother. When the photo of Dench came through, Hinton wrote back, "You're not my grandma," with a laughing emoji. He then sent a selfie of his own and asked if he could still come over for Thanksgiving. "Of course you can," Dench replied. "That's what grandmas do. Feed everyone." Oh, it's unavailable. Oh. That was a story that was a story that said that New York's outbreak came from York. Dang. Alrighty, let's check the second link here. So many animations. Tyson GBS closure show virus hitting American meat production. Major U.S. meat plants are starting to take more drastic measures to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, fanning concerns of supply disruptions at a time when Americans is stocking up on food. On Monday, Tyson Foods said it halted pork processing at a plant in Iowa after more than 24 workers tested positive for COVID. JBS suspended operations until April 16th at a beef plant in Pennsylvania after several managers showed symptoms. Other producers have seen everything from walkouts to hundreds of staff's quarantine. The temporary shutdown comes as the virus spread to rural areas that are the heart of U.S. food production. In the early stages of the outbreak, producers opted to keep plants running when workers got sick by identifying specific areas where infected people had direct contact. Tyson meat and poultry plants are experiencing varying levels of impact to production. The company said in a statement, more workers are failing to show up to shifts. Additional sanitation efforts to keep people safe are spurring temporary closures. In the case of the Iowa plant, the hogs are being sent to other pork facilities in the region to minimize disruption. Meanwhile, Tyson is asking federal agencies for more personal protective equipment for his workers and trying to secure supplies of face coverings, White said. We're working hard to protect our team members during this ever-changing situation, while also ensuring we continue fulfilling our critical role of helping feed people across the country. All right, now you got a link for us.
Police say an Albuquerque man tried to kill his wife because he was upset over the coronavirus stimulus checks. APD arrested 63-year-old Joe Macias yesterday at his home near San Pedro in San Antonio.
Still did it.
Police say Macias was upset. He apparently doesn't qualify for the stimulus check, so he asked his wife for her car key so he could buy beer. When she told him no, that's when police say Macias left and came back with a gas can, pushed his wife to the ground, and doused her and their mobile home in gas. Macias then allegedly tried to light a cigarette but was unsuccessful. He's facing several charges now, including attempted murder.
Oh, Lord. I'm going to get caught. I'm going to get caught. I'm going to get caught. Back out. Back out. Thank you. Doc, honey. This is the last thing you want. Thank God there ain't no carbonation. Let's see if I can get this cleaned up here. Sorry about that, y'all. This daggone soda. I put it in the freezer when my refrigerator ain't no joke. My refrigerator ain't no joke at all. Dad, we down to $3.80. Hey, that's rough right there. $3.80 to the chat real quick. That daggone shame. I told you, people need the stimulus money. They need to go ahead and get that liquor, get that weed, get that drugs, get whatever you need so that you be all right. I bet that woman wish she'd have given that liquor now. All right, y'all. This came on early today. I found it hilarious. I figured y'all might like to relive it.
I spoke with the governor of Louisiana, and as you know, we're building them additional beds right now, the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA, and that is going to be done, and I hope they're not going to be very well used because I think they've really, I don't think they're going to need them, or certainly not very many of them. We built them a big hospital of 1,000 beds, and now we're in the midst of doing another 1,000. I don't think they're going to be using very many of them, and that's a good thing. There was a time 2 weeks ago when we said that's not going to be nearly enough. We're going to have to build more, but we wanted to wait to see, and I'm glad we waited. It just looks like they're doing really well. Louisiana and state of Michigan is doing really much better than we thought. In Washington State, we've made enough progress that the governor is now able to return an Army field hospital. So we're going to take that hospital. We don't think we need any more hospitals. We built thousands of beds all over the country. And we think we're probably not going to need that hospital anymore. And if we do, we're ready to move it to a different location. In New York, we're seeing hospital admissions declining very substantially, as I said. And nationwide, the number of new cases per day is flattening, substantially suggesting that we are near the peak and our comprehensive strategy is working. Over time, our guidelines to slow the spread are decreasing the rate of new cases very substantially and will result in fewer hospital admissions. And we're seeing that. It's incredible. I think with no exceptions, It's looking like it's lower. And again, that's because of the people doing what they had to do, great people, and working with elected representatives and the doctors, the nurses, and everybody. I mean, just everybody. So everybody so has been so amazing. I was told this morning again, please mention all of those people working in the grocery stores, and it's true. The checkouts and the clerks and the people that are really, and a number of those people have become infected. So we want to thank them and a shout out to them. With the tireless devotion of American doctors and nurses and all of the medical people, we've kept our fatality rate very, very low compared to other countries. My administration's closely monitoring the data on the virus's impact on our cherished African American communities because they've been hit hard. And the Surgeon General will be sharing more of that information right after we're finished here. He'll be coming up and saying exactly what's happening because it's really, it's very troublesome, I will tell you that. I'd also like to provide clarity on the important point for many Americans on elective surgeries. While we've asked hospitals to cancel surgeries and procedures that do not take place at this time, just not to do them now, the choice to delay any treatment still remains between the patient and their doctor. We're not advising Americans to postpone medical treatment that their doctor believes should occur now. So it's different kinds of surgery, obviously. But we're really getting to the point where you can start to think about doing that surgery if necessary pretty soon, I think pretty soon. Yesterday, I directed Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue to expedite aid to American farmers. And Secretary Perdue will be using all of the tools at his disposal to develop a program and very quickly of at least $16 billion to provide relief for farmers, ranchers, and producers impacted by the coronavirus. In this time of crisis, we must keep our supply chains moving from the beginning, right from beginning to end, and we're committed to supporting the amazing men and women who produce supply. I did last night a statement on social media, and I said, I have directed Secretary Sonny Perdue to expedite help to our farmers, especially to the smaller farmers who are very, very badly hurting right now. I expect Secretary Perdue to use all of the funds and authorities at his disposal to make sure that our food supply is stable and safe, and our great farmers are prosperous and continue to be prosperous. We're working very hard to make sure our food supply chain is sound and plentiful, but we all know that that begins with our farmers, cattlemen, ranchers, and producers. So we're going to be working with the small farmers, the big farmers, the cattlemen, the ranchers, all of the producers. We're going to take care of them. We're working with them right now. We have a lot of money that was put there through our use of tariffs and other means, and we're going to help out our farmers. And I tell you, I've been helping our farmers for a couple of years because they were targeted, as you know, by China and others. And I think they're very grateful for what we've done. On the medical front, the FDA has issued 47 emergency use authorizations for advancements in testing, new ventilator designs, innovations in personal protective equipment, and experimental medicines, and Dr. Hahn's going to be talking about that. We've cut through the red tape to give doctors and patients unprecedented freedom to make their own healthcare decisions, granting access to potential therapies and drugs. Since Monday, we've deployed 2 major shipments of hydroxychloroquine from our national stockpile. It's going to various cities. And we are also disposing and getting, as quickly as we can, portions of it to the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Defense. And speaking of the Department of Defense, they're going to be sending us 10 million N95 masks that they had. And we're in great shape in every way. We're in great shape with ventilators. We're in great shape with protective clothing. We have additional plane loads coming in, but we're not getting any calls from governors at this moment. I can speak, I think, for Vice President Pence, who'll be talking in a little while. We're getting very few calls from governors or anybody else needing anything. They're in great shape for the surge that's coming in certain areas in particular. And that's a good job. You've done a great job on that, Mike. Really a great job. I appreciate it. The whole country appreciates it. More than 2 million coronavirus tests have now been completed, and we're conducting approximately 100,000 more every day. We're also working to bring blood-based serology tests to the market as quickly as possible so that Americans can determine whether or not they have already had the virus and potentially have immunity. They have immunity if they've had the virus. A lot of them don't even know if they've had it. Sometimes it's brutal. You see the Prime Minister seems to be doing well now, I hope. He had a rough go of it and still is, but he's doing better. And then some people don't even know they had it. It could be sniffles. It could be they don't feel perfect, but they've had it, and they're the lucky ones. The NIH, CDC, and FDA are currently validating these antibody tests to ensure that they're accurate, and they're doing that at breakneck speed. I think we can say that, Doctor, and we're going to get them approved very quickly, Dr. Hahn. When validated, we're confident that the production will scale up to tens of millions of tests very quickly. We're leading the world now in testing by far. And we're going to
Can y'all hit the thumbs up, please?
Other countries are coming to us and they want to know about our tests, and can they buy the tests, and can they do whatever they have to do to get the tests, and we're going to make that very soon. We'll be in a position to make that possible because it's important for them to have it. And we're going to have an announcement on the World Health Organization sometime next week. As you know, we give them approximately $500 million a year. And we're going to be talking about that subject next week. We'll have a lot to say about it. We'll hold it. Every American should be proud of what our country has achieved in just a short period of time. The U.S. military has deployed thousands of personnel to build 23 temporary hospitals with more than 16,000 beds. And we have the potential to build many more if we needed them. We're all ready to go, but I don't think we're going to need them, which is great news. And we built those hospitals in 12 states and the District of Columbia using the Defense Production Act, and we used it like a hammer. A lot of the media said, oh, we weren't using it. We used it like a hammer to a point where all we had to do is say the words and everybody gave us max, and they've done a good job. They really have done a good job with few exceptions. And we've harnessed the full power of American industry to produce ventilators and other essential supplies. Right now, we're making thousands of ventilators, many of which we won't need, but we'll use them in our stockpile. And we'll build that up. We'll also help build up the stockpiles, which they should have had in the states. And so we're working with governors on that, and we'll also help other countries. There are countries that are calling us for help. They need ventilators, and they're in no position to build ventilators. We are. We have Ford and General Motors, and many companies are building ventilators. So we're going to be helping at a not too distant point. We're going to be helping quite a few of the countries. Now, we've launched Project Airbridge to deliver nearly 300 million pieces of personal protective equipment from and around the globe. We're also shipping out 60 sterilization systems to 10 different cities that can each sterilize up to 80,000 masks each day. And I'm even hearing it can go up to 120,000 masks a day. Certain equipment with certain additions. It's a company in Ohio that makes it. It's a great company, great. I hear it's a great product, works very well. I asked that question. I said, how come we have to buy so many masks? Why can't we sterilize the masks that are being used? And the answer was you can. In this case, they say up to 20 times. So we can take a mask, certain types of masks, the N95s in particular, and we can sterilize them, make them very clean up to 20 times. That's a great thing. In addition, we passed the largest emergency economic relief package in American history to save the U.S. economy and protect the American worker. As you know, this past week, which was 4 active days on the stock market, Good Friday today is not included. The markets are closed. In 4 days, we had the biggest stock market increase that we've had in 50 years. That tells you that there's a pent-up demand. That tells you they want to get back. There's something good going to happen. I really believe that. There's something very good going to happen. We have to get back. So think of it, in this horrible period, this horrible, dark period where this monster came and worked its horrible, horrible spell over the world. 184 countries as of this morning. 184 countries. We've done well, and I guess the market thinks we've done well because we had the biggest stock market increase without 1 day. We're talking 4 days instead of 5 that we've had in 50 years. 50 years. Think of that. More than 50 years, actually. In short, the American people have launched the greatest mobilization of our society since World War II, deploying every scientific, governmental, medical, and military resource to defeat the virus. So I want to just start then with, we're going to answer questions later. We'll have time. I think we have a lot of time today. A lot of people are off, as they should be, Good Friday. So I'll stick around. We'll answer questions later. I want to start with Deborah Birx, please, Dr. Birx, and you can go over some of the numbers we just looked at, and that'd be great. Thank you very much, Deborah.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for outlining how well we are doing in a series of metro areas. What also has been encouraging for those of you who are watching epidemic curves every day, and I'm sure you are, and watching them in log phase, because that's how epidemiologists like to look at their curves, you can see for the first time that in the United States, we're starting to level on the logarithmic phase like Italy did about a week ago. And so this gives us great heart that not only in specific places, but we're starting to see that change. Obviously, a lot of that is driven by the improvement in New York City. Remember, for a long time, they were over 50% of our cases and 50% of our new cases. That has dramatically changed because of the impact of what the citizens of New York and New Jersey and across Connecticut and now Rhode Island are doing to really change the course of this pandemic and really change the trajectory of new cases. We're seeing that what many states and metro areas were experienced as twofold and fourfold increases that went to twofold, that now those are going to 8 days between the doubling rate. Watching this every day gives us hope across these metro areas from New York and New Jersey and all through Denver and of course through New Orleans. We still see cases occurring in the Boston area and in Chicago, but their rate of increase seems to be stabilizing. And we really want to call out the work of the mayors of Baltimore and the district and Philadelphia, who have really brought all of their health experts together and working with their communities are starting to really change the curves in those areas. What we're seeing is we're united in social distancing. And that's been very encouraging to all of us. And it should be encouraging to the healthcare providers that are on the front line, many of which are serving our Americans with such dignity and respect and ensuring that everybody gets optimal care. And as the president noted, our mortality in the United States is significantly less than many of the other countries when you correct them for our population. And that is really solely the work of our frontline healthcare providers. And so working with, you can really, hopefully you get the theme today that we are incredibly proud of our public health leaders at the city level, at the state level, at the federal level, who are working together to really change the course of this pandemic, working with their citizens and their communities to make these changes. And the American public who have really taken all of this to heart and stayed home. I know last week we really asked a lot of people in the Washington and Baltimore area to consolidate, not go out frequently to grocery stores or pharmacies. You can really see that that's having a huge impact. So it's really about the encouraging signs that we see, but as encouraging as they are, we have not reached the peak. And so every day we need to continue to do what we did yesterday and the week before and the week before that, because that's what in the end is going to take us up across the peak and down the other side. We continue to really applaud the work of California and Washington State and Oregon. We're learning from all three of those states, from their public health officials, about how they were able to keep the virus from ever becoming logarithmic. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us on how they did that, what the timing was in case we ever have to face this issue in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So again, just keeping on the theme that Dr. Birx had mentioned, this is the end of the week, that famous week that we spoke about last weekend, in which what actually was predicted to happen happened. We're starting to see the leveling off and the coming down that Dr. Birx had mentioned. But it's important to remember that this is not the time to feel that since we have made such important advance in the sense of success of the mitigation, that we need to be pulling back at all. I was actually hearkened by the fact that we've been talking about the New York, New Jersey, New Orleans, and other areas where they have really big spikes. But there's other parts of the country, in the middle parts of the country, where they're concerned to make sure they don't get those spikes. And I really want to salute the governors of states throughout the entire United States, but particularly in the central part of the country, because the governors often see us in these press conferences, and I've had calls over the last several days from several of the governors, from Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Utah. Just about an hour and a half ago, I spoke with the governors of Arkansas and Wyoming, who are really committed to make sure that they don't get into the situation where they're going to have spikes in their state. And they're doing the kinds of things that they don't get recognized because people don't talk about them much. But we have a big country. We have 50 states, and it's not only the big cities. So if we're going to pull out of this, we're going to pull out of it in the big cities, and we're going to pull out of it in those areas that aren't as densely populated. And I just want to give a shout out to them. They're doing an extraordinary job. I was really pleasant. I wouldn't say surprised, because I expect it of this country, but to hear what they're doing and the commitment that they're putting into making sure that we don't have the kinds of situations that we've experienced, unfortunately, in other areas. This is very important. I just want to close by one other thing, something I mentioned yesterday.
We're not going to listen to Biden. I want Trump to get... Where Trump at?
Interventions that are going into clinical trials, for those of you...
There you go.
And so many HIV clients have also given up their space on the machines to have these tests run for all of Americans. This assay is complicated. It's not like an assay that you have for your other diseases, your strep test or other diseases like that. This is a very complicated assay that requires a lot of technical oversight, and it's part of the reason why not all 100% of machines are running at full capacity, but we had great discussion with the lab directors about that. Every day more are brought online, and so, but I think we have to create expectations of what the daily test rates will be. Last year, we probably did 3 million HIV viral loads or 4 million HIV viral loads as a country. We've done over almost 2.2 million in 4 weeks. So this is unprecedented in what we have to do. I think that's why we're working very hard for two pieces. And I want to make sure that people understand testing is just part of our strategy. The other part of the strategy has to be this syndromic and influenza-like illness where there's an alert to an illness. And so that we're surveying where we know the most vulnerable cases have appeared. And the great call that I had with the mayors and with the health officials yesterday and mayors today, a lot of the rural areas, their primary, and as it was in Washington and California, was at the nursing homes. So the issue is to build a testing strategy that speaks to our strengths of laser focusing a strategic approach to testing when we know what our volumes are, and they increase every day, but we have to be realistic about what the volumes will be a week, 2.2 million in 4 weeks. So this is unprecedented in what we have to do. I think that's why we're working very hard for two pieces, and I want
a shortened week, 4 days instead of 5, to have the biggest stock market gain in over 50 years. So I think that, to me, there's a sign. Hey, look, with all we've been down, I mean, we've never been hit. I don't know, has this country ever been hit like this? Probably not. 1917, but that was different, and it was a different time, and frankly, Europe took the brunt of it. We didn't, but it was a terrible time also. But probably never been hit like this, right? Somebody was saying, in fact, I was speaking with Governor Cuomo about it, because we were in New York City, a place we love, New York State, with the World Trade Center. And that was approximately 3,000 people. Well, we've doubled that in this same area. We've doubled that, more than double it, substantially more. And it's obviously going. You know, we had our highest number yesterday and the day before. Okay, with all of this news, what would lead you to believe that we're going to have the best stock market week, shortened week, in 50 years? Almost broke the all-time record. You know what that is? That's a pent-up demand. Now, that's my opinion. The other thing is we're doing tremendous stimulus plans. And despite what you're reading, you know, there's back and forth, but we are getting along with the Democrats. They want to see something happen. We have to help our workers. We have to help our small businesses. We have to help our restaurants. I think deductibility will be great for entertainment, restaurants, all of that. Look, I think with the stimulus, with the people, with what we've got going, with all of the things, we're going to be meeting with the airlines over the weekend. We have a great plan for the airlines. We've got to keep the airlines going. You know, it's never been a great business, but it's a very vital business for the country. We're going to be meeting with Boeing. We're going to be meeting with a lot of companies that are great companies and were great companies a short while ago. I mean, we can't let anything happen to Boeing. It's, you know, got so much potential. You talk about potential. Can anything have more potential than that? So we have a lot of very exciting things taking place. We have tremendous plans. We have tremendous stimulus. And I think we have a chance to do really well. So this quarter isn't the quarter I'm looking at. Third quarter, we start to think about it. And I think fourth quarter is going to be at a level that maybe we haven't seen before. I think our country, with the stimulus, with all that we've been through, we've learned a lot. Don't forget, we've learned about pandemics and epidemics. We've learned a tremendous amount. And with all that we've learned, as an example, we're making ventilators. We have thousands of them being delivered in the very near future. We have countries calling us, can we have ventilators? That would have been an unthinkable call. I wouldn't know what to say. They have people dying, but we needed them for ourselves. We have plenty before the surge. In New York, they need far fewer hospital rooms, or far fewer hospital beds in particular, than we thought. And I have to say, Dr. Birx told me that 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. Remember, you said, that number's too high. We don't need that many. And based on what she said and others, we did what we had to do. We actually gave the maximum. We built Javits. We sent the ship in. We then made the ship COVID because, you know, there weren't a lot of people on the roads. You didn't have the accidents that we thought, other unrelated accidents. Nobody driving. You know, normally you have a lot of car accidents. You have a lot of motorcycle accidents. You have people going to the hospital. We didn't have that. We had almost none of it. So a lot of things have happened. I think we have a chance to be stronger than before. I really do. I think the stimulus is very important, what we're doing. I think it's very, very important. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, may I ask you about credit and debt as well?
Yeah.
Many American individuals, families have had to tap their credit cards during this period of time, and businesses have had to draw down their credit lines. Are you concerned, Mr. President, that may hobble the U.S. economy? All of that debt, number one. And number two, would you suggest to credit card companies to reduce their fees during this time?
Well, it's something that we've already suggested. We're talking to them. Business interruption insurance. I'd like to see these insurance companies. You know, you have people that are paid. When I was in private, I had business interruption. When my business was interrupted through a hurricane or whatever it may be, I'd have business where I had it. I didn't always have it. Sometimes I had it. Sometimes I have a lot of different companies. But if I had it, I'd expect to be paid. You have people, I speak mostly to the restaurateurs, where they have a restaurant. They've been paying for 25, 30, 35 years, business interruption. They've never needed it. All of a sudden they need it. And I'm very good at reading language. I did very well in these subjects, okay? And I don't see the word pandemic mentioned. Now, in some cases it is. It's an exclusion. But in a lot of cases, I don't see it. I don't see reference that they don't want to pay up. I would like to see the insurance companies pay if they need to pay, if it's fair. And they know what's fair, and I know what's fair. I can tell you very quickly. But business interruption insurance, that's getting a lot of money to a lot of people. And they've been paying for years. You know, sometimes they just started paying. But you have people that have never asked for business interruption insurance, and they've been paying a lot of money for a lot of years for the privilege of having it. And then when they finally need it, the insurance company says, we're not going to give it. We can't let that happen. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. On March 6th, you said anyone who wants tests can get a test. Now you're saying that you would be open to reopening the government without having a national testing system. How do you square those two statements, given that there's still issues with testing going forward? And how can you tell people
there's not
that they're
a lot
not
of issues with testing?
Yeah,
I got it. There's not a lot, and it's a good question. There's not a lot of issues with testing. Certain sections of if we go to Iowa, we go to Nebraska, and interestingly, Idaho is very interesting because they had a few breakouts, small breakouts, but they're very, very capable states, and they're big distances, a lot of land, a lot of opening. You don't need testing there. Where you have a state with a small number of cases, some states with almost none. West Virginia hung in for a long time, as you know, with none for a long time. So when you have that, you don't need testing. You don't have to test every person in the state of Iowa, as an example. You don't have to test every single person to say, let's open up and let's get the tractors moving and let's get the corn and let's open up all of the different things they do in that great state. You don't need that. And with that being said, if there's a little hot corner someplace, we'll be testing. But I think Deborah speaks to this very well. The same thing in New York. That's what we talked to Governor Cuomo about this morning. We have the Abbott test, which is very quick and very easy. It goes very fast. Then we have a lesser test that we talked about where we can talk about a larger area. But you're going to know. So we're going to do testing, but you don't need to test 325 to 350 million people because, number one, it's unnecessary. Vast numbers, vast areas of our country don't need this. I think you agree with me on that. You just don't need it. Now, we have certain hotspots. So Louisiana's a hotspot, New York's a hotspot, Detroit's a hotspot. And then you have certain areas and certain hotspots that you have to even go more so. And we're doing all of that. Remember this, we've done more testing than any country in the world. And we have the best test. And we developed this over a very short period of time. Please.
Can I ask you also about the African American disparities?
Yes,
I have a question for you and a question for the Surgeon General.
Sure.
For you, Mr. President, we know that these health disparities have existed for a long time among African Americans, Latinos, and other people of color. Why did the administration possibly have a plan directed at those communities to prevent high death rates, knowing that the health disparities were there?
Well, we do have a plan, and one of the things I'm most proud about is what I've been able to do for the African American community. The lowest job numbers in the history of our country. This was
the virus,
just before the virus came. Well, I'm just saying, because, this has been here for 3 weeks, right? So just before, African American community had the lowest unemployment, the best employment numbers. More African American people and communities have been thriving. If you look at our opportunity zones and what we did, Tim Scott, who's fantastic, a fantastic senator, came to the opportunity zones. More jobs for African Americans than ever before, better health care than they've ever had before. All of these things. The Surgeon General spoke to it, and he spoke to it, I thought, really brilliantly. I found it very interesting what he said, and I'd love you to come up and answer the second part of the question, because I think you would do it a much better job than I would. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Surgeon General. Thank you. I have a quick question for you. You said that African Americans and Latinos should avoid alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. You also said do it for your abuela, do it for Big Mama, and Pop Pop. There are some people online that are already offended by that language and the idea that you're saying behaviors might be leading to these high death rates. Could you talk about whether or not could you have a response for people who might be offended by the language that you used?
Well, I use that language because that's the language. I've been meeting with the NAACP, with the National Medical Association, with others. I actually talked with Derrick Johnson multiple times this week, the head of the NAACP, and we need targeted outreach to the African American community, and I use the language that is used in my family. I have a Puerto Rican brother-in-law. I call my granddaddy. I have relatives who call their grandparents Big Mama. So that was not meant to be offensive. That's the language that we use and that I use, and we need to continue to target our outreach to those communities It is critically important that they understand it's not just about them. And I was very clear about that. It's not just about what you do, but you also are not helpless. We need to do our part at the federal level. We need people to do their parts at the state level, and we need everyone. Black, brown, white, but can you help dispel the myths in this community that people actually can't get coronavirus if they're black? That was a myth that was out there that's actually very important for us to squash here.
And that all Americans avoid tobacco, alcohol, and drug use at this time?
Absolutely. It's especially important for people who are at risk and with comorbidities, but yes, all Americans. So thank you, and I will clarify that. All Americans need to avoid these substances at all times. I put out a smoking cessation report in January. I put out an advisory against youth and pregnant women using marijuana last year, and that was not directed towards any one race. That's everybody needs to do everything they can to be as healthy as possible at this critical time. Dr. Fauci, would you add anything?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Thank you. Would you like to add anything to it? Because you are really, you expressed it very beautifully before.
No, I mean, Jerome, you did it beautifully. I can't do it any better than that. And I know Jerome personally, and I can just testify that he made not even a hint of being offensive at all with that comment. I thought that was appropriate. Thanks.
And I can tell you, Jerome has done a fantastic job. Our Surgeon General, I just hope nobody steals him and he goes to one of these big companies for a fortune. Don't leave us, right? Don't leave us, Jerome, please. He's doing a great, you are happy and you're doing a great job. And everybody tells me that too, so we appreciate it. Please.
Thank you. So Google and Apple have announced that they are jointly enabling contact tracing on their mobile phone operating systems. And I was wondering if this is something that you would consider, or maybe the job
Well, that's
would
individual
consider.
freedoms, problems, and a lot of other things. Is it something we're going to look at it, certainly, and we know they've done that, and it's it's very new technology. It's very interesting, but a lot of people worry about it in terms of a person's freedom. We're going to take a look at that, a very strong look at it. We'll let you know pretty soon. Brand new, yes, please.
So can you explain why it is appropriate in the middle of a pandemic to be talking about cutting or eliminating funding for the World Health Organization?
Well, we're going to talk about the WHO next week in great detail. I didn't want to do it today, Good Friday. I didn't want to do it before Easter. I also didn't want to do it before we have all the facts. But over the years, many years, we've been paying them from $300 to $500 and even more $1 million a year. China's been paying them less than 40 over the years. So we're paying them more than 10 times more than China. And they are very, very China-centric, as I said during the week, China-centric. China always seems to get the better of the argument. And I don't like that. I really don't like that. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think it's fair to the American people. And, I tell that to President Xi. I tell that to Dr. Tedros. I spoke to him one time. I think he's a very nice man. I liked him. But we're going to be talking about that next week in great detail. We're looking at it very, very closely. We want to make sure money is properly spent. But again, why is the United States paying $500 million a year? It's a lot. And why is, that's a lot. And why is China paying this year, $42 million, but generally under 40, so it's in the 30s. So we're at 500, 452, 400, 401, different amounts, different years. And they're at 40, 38, 36, 35, 32, 31. No, but you have to ask yourself that question. And then the answer always turns out to be in China's favor. Well, I have the same thing with the world trade. Isn't it interesting? World trade. So we have World Health and we have World Trade. So we have the World Trade Organization. And until I came along, we were losing cases, so many cases, it was ridiculous. We were always losing these cases, almost every case. And now we're winning cases. We just won $7 billion because they know I'm not going to put up with it. China has been unbelievably taken advantage of us and other countries. For instance, they're considered a developing nation. I said, well, then make us a developing nation too. They get big advantages because they're a developing nation. India, a developing nation. The United States is the big developed nation. Well, we have plenty of development to do, okay? And now we're winning cases because they know that if we're not treated fairly, I'm going to pull out. Now, you never heard this before because nobody ever talked about the World Trade Organization, but the World Trade Organization has treated us very unfairly. But they know I'm not going to put up with it because all of these countries are taking advantage of the United States. Now, in the courts and the court system, we're not approving new judges over the last year. We're not going to approve them. And Bob Lighthizer is working very hard on that. But we had always a minority position, meaning numbers of judges. So we'd have a minority number of judges. I said, how do you win with a minority number of judges? But all of a sudden we're winning. And the reason we're winning is they know if they don't treat us properly, and we won $7 billion just this very recently. And the money is pouring in. And we won other cases too. We won a lot of cases. But you know, from covering it, I know you know, that the United States was taken advantage of by the World Trade Organization. And by the way, speaking of China, if you look at the history of China, it was only since they went into the World Trade Organization that they became a rocket ship with their economy. They were flatlined for years and years, frankly, for many, many decades. And it was only when they came into the World Trade Organization that they became a rocket ship because they took advantage of all the rules. I'm not even blaming them. I'm saying, how stupid were the people that stood here and allowed it to happen? But we don't allow that to happen. And if they don't treat us fairly, we'll leave. But now we're starting to win cases. How about somebody new for a change? Come on, go ahead.
President, as many schools and school districts are closing across the country, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has not opened, and you believe that schools, would you recommend that schools open up and to those states that have?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in Ron DeSantis, a lot of faith in Ron DeSantis to make the right decision. He's doing a great job as governor. Ron DeSantis, I had read where he's thinking about opening up the schools earlier than the date, the end of the month. I'd have to look at the numbers. But again, you know, I like to allow governors to make decisions without overruling them. Because from a constitutional standpoint, that's the way it should be done. If I disagreed, I would overrule a governor. And I have that right to do it. But I'd rather have them, you can call it Federalist, you can call it the Constitution, but I call it the Constitution. I would rather have them make their decisions. But he's made a lot of good decisions. And he hasn't said he's going to, but he's thinking about it. So I'll take a look at it.
If I can ask a follow-up to one of the doctors, if you allow children back in the schools, you know, wouldn't that pose a threat to spreading the virus even further to some of those vulnerable?
Well, I think the answer is obvious, but if you want either, would you want to just talk about that, maybe? Tell me. I know. Okay, I think I know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, from pure public health issues is that if you have a situation in which you don't have a real good control over an outbreak and you allow children to gather together, they likely will get infected. And if they get infected, the likelihood that they will bring the infection home. So that really is a risk. I don't know the situation at all in any detail, and I'm not specifically speaking about Florida. I'm just speaking generically about what happens when you have infections in the community and you have a congregation of people, such as in classrooms, that's a risk.
Has anyone under 25 died, Dr. Fauci, in the country?
Yes.
The governor yes. said that no one under 25 has died. I guess you could clarify that people under 25 can die as a result of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Again,
in the country.
Okay, let's do that because I don't want to have to be answering for a particular state. Yes, people under 25 have died of coronavirus disease in the United States of America.
So if you reopen the country in May and there's a new outbreak or a spike in infections, are you open to the idea of shutting the country down again?
Depending on the outbreak, yeah. Depending, I mean, and that's happened, as you know, a couple of countries. You know what I'm doing? I'm watching other countries. In many cases, they're ahead of us from the standpoint that it attacked them before us. It hit them first. And I'm watching what's happening with respect to certain other countries. Some of them obvious, some of them less obvious, and what they're doing, and the success that they're having. And that's going to play a large part of the role. We're also setting up a council of very, very great doctors and business people. We're going to be announcing it on Tuesday. some great people.
Economic task force.
There's a second task force?
This is beyond economic. This is really, I call it the Opening Our Country Task Force, or Opening Our Country Council, so we don't get it confused with Mike's task force, which has done so great. And we're going to have the great business leaders, great doctors. We're going to have a great group of people. We'll probably do it by teleconference because we don't really want them traveling in for their own purposes. I don't think it would look good also, but we don't want them traveling in. So we'll do teleconference. We did one the other day with the banks, and it was very successful, the teleconference itself. And we'll be announcing names on Tuesday who's on that. And that'll play a role, but ultimately I have to make that decision. And then I'll have to make a decision. Do we close a little area that's a hot spot? I do say this, Jim, I want to get it open as soon as possible. This country was meant to be open and vibrant and great, not where people are, staying and, I would love to open it. I'm not determined anything. The facts are going to determine what I do. But we do want to get the country open, so important. So I'll have a task force, I'll have a council. It's going to be announced on Tuesday with names that you have a lot of respect for, a lot of great names, different businesses, different people, bipartisan. I didn't even ask. I mean, honestly, I think it's bipartisan. The one thing I didn't ask, are you Republican or a Democrat? Hard to believe, but I didn't ask. So it would be. And I want their views on what they think. Also, very important, different parts of the country. Because you go to the Midwest, it's different than perhaps the East Coast or the West Coast. Now, the West Coast, those numbers are really pretty amazing on the West Coast. Very interesting. So we're going to be announcing that in a very short while, probably Tuesday. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Government officials in Latin American and Caribbean nations, Bahamas, Cayman Islands, have been saying that U.S. authorities are blocking the shipment of PPE in certain cases, and I'm wondering if we could speak to that as
well. What we're doing, we have a tremendous force out there, naval force, and we're blocking the shipment of drugs. So maybe what they're doing is stopping ships that they want to look. We're not blocking. What we're doing is we're making sure we don't want drugs in our country, and especially with the over 160 miles of wall, it's getting very hard to get through the border. They used to drive right through the border like they owned it, and in a certain way they did. They could drive right. They had human trafficking. They had, all of a sudden they have a powerful wall up, and they're not driving through that wall. That wall is tough, and it's also loaded up with equipment, cameras and sensors and everything you can think of. On top of that, we have drones flying back and forth over it. So it's a very powerful barrier between Mexico and the United States. A lot of people, though, what they're doing now is they're trying to come in through the waterways, whether it's the Gulf or the ocean itself. And what we're doing is we're being very tough, and we're being tough because of drugs and also human trafficking. And remember, the human trafficking is mostly females. It's mostly females. It's horrible, and what we're seeing is horrible. But you have we have a human trafficking problem worldwide, the likes of which, you think of it as an ancient thing. It's not ancient. It's bigger now than it's ever been before over the last 10 years because of the internet. The internet made human trafficking to the extent that it is now, which is massive. The internet made it so big. So we have a big naval force that's stopping. So maybe when you mention that, maybe their ships are getting caught, but we are stopping a lot of ships, and we're finding a lot of drugs. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. On the additional money for small
I meant you, but that's okay. Go ahead. We'll do this.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
On the additional money for small business, apparently Treasury Secretary Mnuchin speaking with the Democrats in Congress.
Yeah.
Are you allowed
talking about the new?
The new $250 billion.
$250.
Are you willing to give into the Democratic demands for additional money for hospitals, states, and cities in that interim round?
I'd rather have that be in phase 4. I don't deny it. I think it's fun, but I think it should be in phase 4, and I think we should have infrastructure, and I think we should have a payroll tax moratorium, because that's something that over a period of time the workers get, sort of semi-immediately. It's over that period of time. It starts immediately, but it's over a period of time. I mean, there are a lot of people, I'm one of them, that would have liked to have seen the payroll tax cut as a permanent cut. But we should do the double-edged, meaning business, employee, payroll tax cut. So we're talking about that. And I'm certainly okay with helping the states and helping the hospitals. I just think, because look, the hospitals need help. You see what they've gone through. And the states need help. Some states in particular need help. They need big help. I'm willing to look at that very strongly, but I like looking at it in phase 4. The 251 is actually, the plan is working out well. The banks are getting started with the distribution. They've taken thousands and thousands of applications. The numbers aren't even believable, the number of applications. They're swamped, but Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and I guess Citibank is just now kicking in. And also what nobody's talking about, the commercial banks, the community banks. Everyone's talking commercial banks. The community banks are doing tremendous volumes. And they're probably doing them faster from what I understand. I hear the community banks, frankly, are the easiest ones in terms of getting the money out. So the money is getting out. The applications are far beyond what we ever anticipated. And that's why we're going, because this is money that goes essentially to the workers. We want the businesses to hold on to their workers, because once they lose the workers, they're never opening again. It's not going to happen. Okay, in the back.
Yes, sir. Gordon Newell from Wall Street Journal. I wonder if you could expand a little bit on your the form that Mexico would take, the reimbursements. Like, what form would that take? You essentially add it to the tab for the wall that you mentioned. And I have a second question about that.
Well, there's no real cost because we're agreeing to produce a little bit less. So number one, it's staying in the ground. You have it for another day. It's actually cheaper than storing it, where you take it out and you deliver it to a massive well, like the strategic reserves, our national strategic reserves, where it has to be brought there. And that's, an expensive process in itself. But oil is getting to a point where, there are some areas, some people would say the water is more valuable than the oil. You never thought you were going to see that. You never thought, having covered, I know you cover it, you never thought you'd be seeing oil at $20 a barrel, but how about $10 a barrel? That you never thought you'd see. So we are looking at it very strongly. There is no real cost. I was helping I want to help Mexico out. We have a great relationship with Mexico, a great relationship with the president. I really like him a lot. He's been terrific to us on the border because he stopped. You don't see the caravans coming up anymore. You don't see all the problems. When I took office, it was unbelievable what was going on. And they have been helping us a lot. And we've been helping them a lot. They make product for us. They sell it to us. And it's fine. It's a good relationship. Sometimes it's a great relationship. So he could not have done any more than that. And I think there was political reasons for that for him that other nations don't have. They don't have that. The nations that we're talking about, the 22 other nations that we're talking about, they just don't have that problem. So it doesn't cost us anything, and yet it's very valuable. We will be reimbursed in the future, maybe in the near future, maybe in the more distant future, but we'll be reimbursed by Mexico in a certain way, and it'll be fine. But we get Mexico over the hump. Now, with all of that being said, that doesn't mean the deal's going to happen anywhere because they still have a lot of different states. But this was one of the stumbling blocks. Okay, go ahead.
If I may, China and some other countries have been particularly active, seen as maybe taking advantage of the U.S. during this process, during this period. China particularly active in the South China Sea, got a carrier down, obviously. But what's your message to some of these adversaries and competitors?
Well, look, the way I view it is this. China has taken advantage of the United States for 30 years, okay? I mentioned the World Trade Organization. China has taken advantage of us through that and using rules that are unfair to the United States, and this should have never been allowed to happen. When China joined and was allowed to join under those circumstances, the World Trade Organization, that was a very bad day for the United States because they had rules and regulations that were far different and far easier than our rules and regulations. Plus, they took advantage of them down to the last, and you know China, and you study China, and you know what I mean. They took advantage of them like very few people would even think to take advantage of them. And again, they are considered, right, a developing nation. We are not considered a developing nation. They're given advantages. Okay. For many years, China has ripped off the United States. And then I came along. And right now, as you know, China's paying 25%, and we've taken in billions and billions and billions of dollars in tariffs from China. And I know a lot of the people kept saying, oh, no, we're paying. Well, we're not paying. You know, countries are different. Not every country is China. But China would devalue their currency and they'd also pour out money. And they essentially were paying most of those tariffs, not us. And as you know, we've taken in tens of billions of dollars. They targeted our farmers. But we took in so much money that I was able to give back. 1 year was 12 billion, 1 year was 16 billion. I was able to give back our farmers the money that they were targeted, hurt. China bought 12 billion and bought 16 billion. 1 year 12, 1 year 16. I was able to give them back to 12 and then give them back to 16, the farmers. And they weren't targeted. And they're all in business. Now we're doing it because they got targeted in a different way. Now I'm going to be very interested to see. So we signed a deal with China. And under that deal, they're supposed to buy substantially in excess of $200 billion from us. That's not only farm product, it's manufacturing product, it's lots of different things. They're going to buy a lot. I just want to see if they live up to that deal. I know President Xi, I would say he would live up to the deal. But remember this, I never took off the tariff. It's still 25%. That's a big 25% of $250 billion. So for the first time, and you saw also, now again, I'm going before the virus hit, because that's sort of like, that's like, let's start all over again. Okay, I can't tell you that yet because that chapter hasn't been written yet. But go up a few weeks ago, the deficit with the United States and China was coming way down. Nobody's seen that. Nobody's ever seen that before. But the deficit has come way down. So now we start a new chapter. And I can only tell you, if a smart person is standing where I'm standing, we're going to do very well with China. Okay? And I think I have to also say this, I think our relationship and having the relationship I have with China is a good thing. But for the first time, we're benefiting instead of being the sucker that could, got taken advantage for years. Nobody, I said to China, how did this ever happen? I got to know them very well. I said to them, representatives of China at the top level, you know who I'm talking about. I say, how did this ever happen? They looked at me and they said, but nobody ever called us. We didn't have a deal. It's not like we had a bad deal. We had worse. We didn't have any deal at all. So they just took advantage. Think of it. $500 billion a year deficit. Not 500 million's a lot of money, right? It's not, everyone thinks I made a mistake when I say 500 trillion. No, you mean 500 million. No, I said $500 billion a year deficit with China for a long time. But it was 200, it was 300, it was 400, it was 500, 556 billion, 507, $500 billion plus a year deficit with China. Now I'm charging them tariffs. And it's very interesting. A lot of people that don't want to do that, they all agreed because China has taken advantage of this country like nobody has ever taken. We have built China with the money we gave them. Now, I give them a lot of credit, okay? I give them a lot of credit. They did it. But you know what? We made it a hell of a lot easier. We gave them a fortune. Go ahead. How about you in the back? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Deborah Saunders with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I'm here today as a print reporter. So I'd like to ask you a question and then ask a question from one of the reporters who couldn't be here because of social distancing.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
A little louder, please.
Thank you. I was wondering if you have been tested for antibodies. If you've taken the antibodies.
Have I been tested for?
Yes.
Not that I know of. I've had some tests.
Does anybody else have
They tell me no. I'll
Has
accept
anybody
it.
else in the task force been tested for antibodies? We don't have a test yet. You don't have the test?
That'll come out. They've just developed those tests. Sort of new.
Okay, good to know. So this question is from Andrew Feinberg with Newsweek. A significant amount of federal aid was made available to Boeing in the recently signed CARES Act relief package. But according to sources, Boeing executives are still planning
It's okay if you're a business person. Boeing makes airplanes. They had a big problem with a good decision, bad decision, very bad, horrible decision. Number one, human lives, and number two, horrible is what's happened to the company. It's a company, from a business standpoint, was like probably the greatest company in the world, in my opinion. I think it amounts to 1% of GDP. Some people say it's a half. I think it's 1. But here's one of the greatest companies anywhere in the world, maybe the greatest. And boom, Now, on top of what happened there with the 2 planes, and they say they have that fixed. That's good. They say they have it fixed undisputably. In fact, somebody said, they gave me something. I said, you should say it that way. They said, sir, this is now the safest airplane in the air. I said, that's what you should say. That's a very good statement. It's the safest airplane in the air. That's a very good statement. You should use it. I said, by the way, you're changing the name? But whether you do or not, you should use that. But he said that. A Boeing person said to me, it's the safest airplane in the air. That's a great thing. But we know they're going to need help. Now, does that mean they're going to need help and they should keep people that they absolutely don't need? That business is a very cyclical business, like many businesses, frankly. So that determination hasn't made. They have not spoken to us yet. I think they will be. Maybe they won't need help. That'll be great. Look, Boeing made so much money. Who would have thought they could have made all of those planes that are parked all over the place? In many cases, I guess payments not made. But who would have thought they could do that and they're still a solvent company? Okay? I mean, what a tragic thing happened in numerous ways, but also economically. So when they see us, making sure that Boeing is strong again is very, very powerful and very important, and we'll do whatever is necessary to do. Please.
Thank you. A quick one and then a longer one. First of all, have you had a chance?
Should we keep this going, everybody? Huh?
You're the president.
Jim wants to leave. No. Keep it going for a while, yes? We have time if you want. You're not going to criticize me that the conference was too long? You know, if I leave short, yesterday I left short. It was too short. If I stay too long, they say it was too long. Someday we're going to get it just right. Okay. Should we continue? Should we continue? Yes?
Well, let's answer my questions. Yeah.
Okay, let's at least for your question.
Have you had a chance to speak to...
Not a bad point.
Have you had a chance yet to speak to Boris Johnson since he came out?
I have not. No, I have a call just to wish him well to his group. No, I don't want to be calling him now. I want him to get better. He's a great guy. He's become a friend of mine, a real friend of mine. You know, he has a great feeling for our country. Obviously for his country, he loves it. He's a tremendous guy.
Slightly more complicated.
He's become, I think he's probably right now, he was very high to start. I think he might be 100% popularity right now. I think he's, you know, they talk about approval polls, right? You ever hear that term? I'm sure you never heard that. I hear it all the time. His approval rating must be about 300%. But he's a great guy. He was a great guy before, and I think people see what he's been through. What he's been through is incredible. And they say a big turn. So let's see what happens. Let's hope.
And if I may, where do you see the use of something like immunity certificates or documents or passports when we get to immunity certificates? Once we get to antibody testing, whether this will be a useful way.
Well, I see a lot of different things. We're going to be very careful for who comes into the country. Look, my opposition party wants to have open borders. This is a case where I'm very glad that my position is I don't want open borders. I want very strong borders. That includes not only on the southern border, our southern border with Mexico, and you could also say our northern border with Canada. But we want to have strong borders. And I think this is maybe one of the learning points. We learned something about borders. We need borders. The country needs borders to be a great country. And I think this is a great point. Go ahead, do you have something else?
Yeah, I wasn't just thinking about for borders. I just thought for ordinary Americans who are currently stuck at home, if they're tested for antibodies, it turns out they've had the disease and therefore shouldn't be infected again. Some sort of documentation that would allow them to go back to work safely.
You mean once they get better?
Yeah, well, people who might not.
Okay, so they have the disease and they're better, and they have the immunity now. They have, supposedly, according to what I'm hearing, it could be for a long period, could be for a lifetime, it could also be for a year or two, I'm hearing, Tony. So nobody's told me yet if it's for a year, if it's for 2 years, or if it's for a lifetime. Like chicken pox. They say if you have chicken pox, you have immunity, they say for a lifetime. I hope that's true. But nobody's actually told me with certainty, maybe because they don't know yet. You don't know yet. Because it's new. You know, this came upon us. Nobody knew. They do know you have it for a period of time. And it's strong for a period of time. They don't know. That's hence the antibodies that we're making. I saw somebody was really sick, and he got better. A young person, relatively young person, 35, and physically fit, and he got better. He made it, barely, but he made it. His first thing that he did when he was better is, I want to give whatever I can give to help other people, because nobody should go through it. It's a tough thing. So we don't know yet how long, if you'd like to add anything to that, but we don't know yet, is it a year? It will be a year. But is it more than a year? And only time is going to tell. Okay? Thank you.
One more question. Try one more.
Will you have governors, mayors, members of Congress on the Open the Country Council that you talked about?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to put some governors. I've gained great respect for governors, both Republican and Democrat. I've actually become friends with some of the Democrat governors that I wouldn't have really had the privilege of getting to know. And Governor Murphy of New Jersey is a very liberal guy. I'm not, but we've had a great relationship. John Bell, as you know, I call him John Bell. John Bell Edwards, people call him John Bell. Sort of a cool name. From Louisiana, I have a very good relationship with him. Gavin Newsom, honestly, I think we've fighted ever. Hey, we're fighting right now. I want automobiles to be made cheaper and safer and stronger, but you save $3,000-4,000 per auto, and environmentally equal, or better maybe. And we're fighting on that. We're fighting a lot of different things. We fight on the border. He wants open borders. I want people to come into our country legally. But I've gotten very friendly with Gavin Newsom. He's done a very good job here. I think I've gotten very friendly. I mean, he's been, I think, sort of a friend of mine for a long time. Don't get to see him much, but Governor Cuomo of New York, we talk all the time. I told you, I spoke to him literally the last call just before walking in here. I've really developed a lot of good friendships with the governors, and including the governors. I think Mike DeWine, Republican, but I think he's done a great job in Ohio. So yeah, I want to put on both parties. I want to have some governors. I'm not going to have all of the governors, but I'd like to put some representative governors on the council. Yes, I would like to do that.
And you serve? Yeah.
I've asked a couple of them. They've all said yes. So far, everyone said yes. I think everybody would like to be on that council. That's a very important council. I'll go ahead in the back. You haven't gone yet.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions, if I may. Do you have a message to those pastors who are still planning to have Easter services, defying the public health guidelines?
Well, so you're going to have to say it louder. To those what?
To those pastors who are still planning to have Easter services in person.
Pastors who
Oh, the
are
pastors. I
defying
didn't
the-
understand your word. Okay. You have a very nice voice, but it's a little bit low and you're far back. I've had talks with the pastors, and most of the pastors agree. And it's a very complex subject, let's face it, for the obvious reasons. I don't have to go into it. Most of the pastors agree that they are better off doing what they're doing, which is distancing. They feel that let's get this over with, and they want to get back to church so badly. I mean, can you imagine we have Easter Sunday, and I'm going to be watching Pastor Robert Jeffress, who's been a great guy. Did I tell you? He's been a great guy, and I'm going to be watching on a laptop. Now, a laptop is not the same as being in his church or being in another church. It's not. No matter what you say, you don't get to say, "Oh, isn't it wonderful?" But I've done this for 3 weeks, and they've had tremendous. I let people know who it is. They've had the biggest audiences they've ever had. They have millions of people now watching, and people are really liking what they're hearing. So I'm going to be with on Easter, Pastor. I don't even know if he knows it yet, but he will soon. I think he will in about 2 minutes. Pastor Robert Jeffress, and he's a terrific guy, a terrific man. I've gotten to know him very well. He's a man of great compassion. He loves our country, and I'm going to be with him on Easter, meaning I'm going to be with him watching on a laptop. Doesn't sound good, but it's one of those things. It cannot be church. I'm not going to get into it. It cannot be church. Most pastors and most people, of faith, people that we listen to and respect and admire. Franklin Graham is a person I have great respect for. Most people, and who's done an incredible job in New York on Central Park, where they put up Samaritan's Purse. He's done an incredible job. The son of the late, great Billy Graham. His family is incredible. He's incredible. Franklin Graham, the job he's doing on I mean, he loves to do it. He has such a passion, and that's why he's so good at it. He does it with incredible love. And he will tell you, we're all saying we've got to get our country cured. I know there are some pastors and ministers and others that want to get together. And I have great respect for them. Two of them I know. But I would say first, I'm a Christian, heal our country. Let's get healed before we do this. And if there's time to do that, we'll do it for hopefully the rest of our lives. Please.
Thank you. The mercy and the comfort seem to be underutilized in Los Angeles and New York. Is there any consideration either to sending the medical units into the cities to help the hospitals there, or to moving the hospital ships?
So the mercy and the comfort were sent when projections were much higher. And I say, Tony backed it up. Deborah made the statement. They said, you're not going to need these many rooms, but we wanted to be prepared. I mean, we had the ship. They did an incredible job. With the Comfort was supposed to be in maintenance for a period of 4 weeks, and they had it done in 3.5, 4 days. And it came up. And so we had it there. If there was a disaster from the standpoint of you needed all of the... Now, I tell you, the Javits Center, Andrew will tell you, we were ready to go. It's incredible the job they did. But they're using less beds. This is a good thing, not a bad thing. They're using less beds. Now, Javits has been pretty busy over the last couple of days, and the death numbers are horrific. But you go back now, and you're finding they're going to start to come down very substantially, just based on the fact that the bed usage, the number of beds are much, much less, much, much less. So the mercy and the comfort were there in case they needed them. Los Angeles, where you have the one, and New York, where you have the other. They just don't. Fortunately, we haven't hit numbers where they would have been used. They're always going to be sort of overflow because they're on the edges. They're not as convenient as certain places. But the people were ready, willing, and able. They were ready to go. They were going to do a great job. But fortunately, we don't need, just like we didn't need as many ventilators. When they were asking in New York for 40,000 ventilators, I had experts, these people, I listened to them. They said, you'll never need that many. And they were right. And New York now has its, and I dealt really well with Mayor de Blasio. We got him a lot of ventilators. We got Andrew a lot of ventilators. But we never felt you needed the numbers that you were talking about. And we were right on that. Now, with all of that being said, we have a lot of ventilators ready to go. We have almost 10,000 in the stockpile. That 10,000 can move rapidly. We can be within 24 hours almost anywhere. And hopefully we're not going to have to be, but it's really, this has been a great military operation. It hasn't all been military because we're dealing with great companies. We have companies that are making masks, and we're all set up on the mask too. I just told you we have an order coming in soon, 500 million masks, 500 million. We have companies, you know the story with GM, or 3M, also GM, but 3M is doing a great job. I spoke to the CEO the other day. We settled it out. We had a dispute with them, and it's now all settled. And I think they're trying to show the country something, maybe me, but the country something. So, we've done, I think, and not me, I'm not talking about this country, our country, the people that are doing it, Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, these people sitting right here, people that we have in the back that are watching every word that we're saying, they've done a fantastic job. They really have done a fantastic job. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you a question about testing. You mentioned the impossibility of testing the entire American public. So has
what do we have?
The Surgeon General.
What do we have? 350 million people? You're going to do that?
That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is priorities. And Dr. Birx has mentioned how there have been priorities in certain regional parts of the country. And I wanted to ask you specifically about one industry in particular, and that's food processing plants. Is there a priority to get testing at food processing plants all across the country?
Well, you're asking that because of what happened. It's a fair question, too. What happened in Denver? because in Denver, I've never seen. I said, "What's going on?" We're looking at this graph where everything's looking beautiful and it's coming down, and then you got this one spike. It's. I said, "What happened in Denver?" And many people, very quickly. And by the way, they were on it like so fast you wouldn't believe it. They knew every aspect. They had people going, not only testing. Who did you see? Where were you? How many people did you meet? Were you out to dinner in somebody else's home? Where were you? Where did this number of people come from? They are totally on it. Now this just happened. I just saw it this morning. I'm looking at everything smooth, going down, topping out. Then you have this one spike in Denver. It's like, where did this come from? So we'll be looking at that, and we don't want cases like that happening. This is the kind of thing can happen. This is very complex. This is a very brilliant enemy. It's a brilliant enemy.
Yeah,
they
I agree.
develop drugs like the antibiotics. You see it? Antibiotics.
All right, y'all. I'm starting to get bored. Alrighty, y'all. I just like to see him and the president with that's too long. At the end is when they really got him. Let's No Night by Kid sent us a link, so let's check it out. See here. Oh, Bloomberg again. You gonna behave this time? Wait a minute, we already saw that one. Wait a minute. I thought she sent another one. Let me scroll back. Excuse me, huh? I thought she sent another one. No, she didn't. Okay. I thought she had sent another one. Must be the same one. Alrighty then. Oh yeah, let me remind y'all. I said it in there. Remember now, our sermons are on Saturday, so we're gonna have our Easter sermon is gonna be tomorrow. Now I said that's a huge tax test for America. Oh, that's the problem, now. You got people who don't know they got it. You have a lot of people. Oh, okay. My bad. Let me make sure I get it this time. Okay. Alrighty, y'all. I knew I wasn't crazy. Alright, copy link address. Yeah, and you also got a lot of immigrants, especially in New York. You got a lot of immigrants. Them immigrants ain't going to no hospital till the last minute. They had to be on their deathbed. Oh no, you're not going to send me back to Mexico. Oh no. I don't mean to be laughing, but y'all know what I mean. I'm not going back.
Tonight, a mystery coronavirus infection. A Charlotte woman thought she was doing all of the right things. She hasn't left her home in more than 3 weeks, yet she tested positive for the virus. She spoke exclusively with our defenders, Nathan Morbido.
Living with an autoimmune disorder, she says she only had contact with 3 people since mid-March, including a woman who dropped off groceries for her, a lady who later tested positive for COVID-19. In between constant coughing, a mask covering her face, Rachel Brummert shares her disbelief.
I really thought I was doing everything right.
At a higher risk for complications due to an underlying condition,
we're asking people to limit their interaction.
She listened to the health experts.
You cannot assume that the person sitting next to you is negative.
Other than a trip to the pharmacy more than 3 weeks ago, Brummert said she didn't leave her house once.
I'm absolutely terrified.
Even so, after days of waiting, a COVID-19 test confirmed her fears.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
From what I'm hearing about ventilators, it's scary stuff. I really hope that I could just wait this out at home.
Have you ever felt this bad in your life?
Never. Not once. This is the sickest I've ever been, and it's the most scared I've ever been.
We want to prevent the ones that are asymptomatic from infecting our parents, our grandparents, all the vulnerable population.
Doctors have said it's people without symptoms who are the greatest risk of infecting others. You haven't left your house since March 18th.
Right.
How did you get this?
I don't know.
Robert says there are really only a few possible sources. Her husband does the grocery shopping, but to be safe, they're living in separate rooms of the house currently. She gets the mail every few days, but always wears gloves. Received a couple of packages, but didn't think to wear gloves for them. And then there's the woman who volunteered to drop off groceries on her doorstep once. She said thank you from a distance.
And I barely had any contact. I mean, I didn't even touch her.
Regardless of the source, Burmert's diagnosis is just another reminder. COVID-19 is easy to get and often difficult to trace. Burmert's had many of the symptoms we've heard about. That cough, a fever, a headache, trouble breathing. Even so, it took her days to meet the criteria to be tested. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
That daggone shame. She been in her house since March 18th. Hey, what's going on, Rita? I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Rita? You avoiding this plague, bug, whatever you want to call it? Okay, we got one more from No Night by Kez. Hold on a second. Make sure y'all can see it. Yeah.
Would you rather save at least $10 with each of...
Oh, you snuck me.
And see how my baby's doing, breathing, smiling sometimes, yawning.
Iris connected to her daughter through a baby monitor only. Little Isabella Michelle, still in the hospital, but improving. Iris is now recovering at home, hoping their first official meeting is just days away.
I just hope that...
Is that her son? I hope they not husband.
Hold her and then just protect her. Once this is over, I just want to spend every second with her and create that bond that we are missing now.
Tonight, as we've been reporting, a terrible toll on African Americans in this country. And in New York City, 34% of coronavirus deaths in the Latino community. For millions of Americans, life on hold. But the message, stay home and stay the course.
It's really about the encouraging signs that we see, but as encouraging as they are, we have not reached the peak.
But still an emergency in so many cities. Today, the Detroit Convention Center turned field hospital, now treating COVID patients. The state now taking more drastic steps, banning travel between homes starting tomorrow.
Our most vulnerable citizens are dying in a helpless manner.
In Maryland, the governor warning there are tough days ahead.
We are ramping up the curve. This is going to be one of our most dangerous times ever this weekend and over the next week or so.
But in Florida, which was slower than other states to order restrictions, the governor considering reopening schools in May and saying this.
This particular pandemic is one where I don't think nationwide there's been a single fatality under 25. For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to threaten, kids.
But the CDC saying at least 8 people under 24 have died in the U.S. States reporting 2 infants, 2 teenagers, and young adults among the victims, like 22-year-old Israel Sounds, who died a short time after he and his wife welcomed a new baby. Tonight, the White House confirming the president is creating a task force focused on reopening the country, saying he'll announce early next week members of the medical and business communities will help decide how to move forward.
And I've got to make the biggest decision of my life. And I've only started thinking about that. I mean, I've made a lot of big decisions over my life. You understand that. This is by far the biggest decision of my life because I have to say, okay, let's go. This is what we're going to do.
But on the front lines, the battle continues to save lives. Right here yesterday, we met nurse Mary Kate Finera.
working in the same Brooklyn ICU where her father, a physician, was being treated for COVID-19. She was caring for others, not him. Difficult for both.
Unfortunately, I was not ever able to go inside of his room, so didn't want to cross-contaminate between other COVID-19 patients and him, so I waved to him from outside of the glass.
Today, her dad, Dr. Richard Finero, is out of the hospital, and like so many healthcare workers, jumping back in the fight to beat this virus.
When you were in the ICU and you saw your daughter on the other side of the glass, was there ever a moment you wondered you might not make it?
I had many moments like that. In fact, at least 2 days worth. I just could not breathe. Quite frankly, I was frightened. But on top of that, to see my daughter at the same time was very difficult.
Love to see those stories of recovery. Whit Johnson joins us now. Whit, the president was asked about new federal projections looking at what would happen if stay-at-home orders were lifted after just 30 days. What was his response?
Lindsay, those projections by federal agencies reported by the New York Times would show a dramatic spike in infections if those orders were lifted. The president saying he hasn't seen them, but that he would listen to his medical experts and in the end make his own decision. Lindsay?
Whit Johnson for us back on this beat tonight. Thanks, Whit. As the fight against COVID-19 rages here in New York and hotspots across the country, there are a few pockets where the coronavirus is very much out of sight, out of mind. Our Kana Whitworth went to a town called Washington City in Utah, where it's still business as usual for some.
The 405 in Los Angeles is utterly empty, yet the roads here in Southwest Utah are totally jam-packed.
Businesses still open. Hitting the links with friends. They feel like long gone luxuries when so much of the country is locked down. But in Washington City, Utah, this is their gloves.
You feel safe?
Yeah, I do. We got hand sanitizer in the car and we're good. I feel safe. I mean, like, yeah, you don't touch your face, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do anyways.
So you guys just invited me to come party with you? Absolutely. Are you partying like normal?
See, that's part of the problem. But that's all right. All it takes is one person.
Lunch behind me in a group. They say that's different because they're not in a restaurant, but they're outside together. Behind me, you can see there's a cigar shop that is open for business, a nail salon where you can go get a manicure or a pedicure. They business, a nail salon where you can go get a manicure or a pedicure. They say they're letting fewer people in at a time.
Don't be a sheep. That's my policy. Everyone's a sheep right now, and if they wear a mask, people put a mask on. Don't be a sheep. Research, educate yourself. Education is a powerful tool.
But countywide, they only have 35 cases here and 1 death. Lacey Priest, who owns and operates a barbershop in neighboring St. George, has stayed open for haircuts and beard trims.
I don't see why we shouldn't be open.
For Lacey, it's life after the coronavirus that she's more concerned about.
We need to go on and live day to day still, you know, after this is all over and done with, there's still going to be life. If I close my doors, I don't know if I'm going to be here when it's time to reopen them. So just being here and being cautious and being aware of our surroundings and the people that we're inviting into the shop.
Restaurants are doing takeout.
All right, I don't feel comfortable playing that. I don't feel comfortable playing that because those people are simple. I'm sorry. That's the way they feel, and I don't have to perpetuate that. But thanks for the link. I like the first story. That second story, y'all remember when we first started, Utah didn't have nothing. And they picking up steam, so, you know, I'm not going to say anything, you know. But next week, when they had about 2,000 cases, then, you know, we'll look back and see if them same people are saying that. I don't want to perpetuate that kind of ignorance, you know. Let's play a game right now. I went out today. Let's see how many people that we can count. How many people can we count that are outside, that are in the store, that don't have a mask on? You'll see at the end, if this camera didn't tap out before then, you'll see at the end, me tell somebody, those of y'all that watch, you know I told somebody, why you don't have a mask on? Dude told me he wasn't worried about it. That'd be the dude that's going to reinfect everybody. Because he ain't worried about it. It don't scare him. He ain't worried about it. That's going to be the dude that's going to be affecting everybody. So let's take a look at the video. I ain't wear that thing on my head for nothing. Hit the play button and let's cut back. And let's go to our friend Windows Media.
All right. Yeah, he wasn't going to wait. Bro, look at him.
So we can go ahead and get started moving.
All right, so we on the move. Naya said she can't say anything. She said the alarm. I'm telling you, it's been a good luck all week. Now, it's cold as a mother out here. I mean, it's cold. Now, luckily, I ain't got to walk nowhere. So, we'll just sit here and cruise. But, and that's the only because I've been in the house so long. But as y'all can see, if you turn around, if you turn the camera around, you turn the phone around, or your computer around, you'll be able to see the road. Now, I'm using this bubble format because I like it, because I can see behind me. I'm dead serious. I can see behind me.
Listen to that wind.
And that's why I like the 360. I can see the front, the side, and behind me.
God done.
You know what I'm saying? It gives you time. You know?
Y'all can hear that wind. I'm talking about, it felt like, I was expecting to see Dorothy and Toto, the way that wind is blowing. Now, this is the camera right here that we're using. You can see, I have something over the microphone. So even with this over the microphone, you can still hear the wind. That's how bad the wind was. I mean, I thought the helmet was going to blow off my head. That's how bad the wind was. But the one thing about, for those people that's going to make fun and say, you going so slow. Why is that a bad thing? When somebody driving and got a camera out, you can't really see everything. It go by so fast. But here, you get to look at everything.
Now, I can't go up to the light. Well, I go to the bottom.
Listen to that wind.
Let him go. Yeah. So we got our mask on, we got our hat on, we just cruising. Cruising up the boulevard.
All right, for those of y'all new, when we watching this camera, I want y'all to notice that the center is the front. On your left and right is the rear. We're using two lenses. It's split. So this black car, you're going to see it go behind us because it's going to go from the front of the camera to the back of the camera. Same thing with that house over there. You're going to see it go behind us. But dead center is straight.
One thing I can say about today, we definitely match. Now, why being so cold, shouldn't nobody be outside. So, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's the rain, sometimes it's the cold. Guess what? I'm going to make it work no matter what it is. Now, watch the car coming. Yeah. Now, hopefully he turn. Turn. He won't turn. You know you won't turn. You know you won't turn. You knew he wasn't going to turn. You
knew it. See the video.
We gotta be careful.
Look at
that. Look at this. Might fall on our head. I'm dead serious. Might fall on our head.
God darn, it's ridiculous.
No, it ain't no TV-5 degrees here now. It's cold, honey, and it's windy. I'm talking about hurricane like rain. I'm talking.
They let me go. That was nice of them.
Thank you. They let me go. The devil already got the mic coming. Come on, sir. Come on. Come on.
He flying too. That wing get on my nerves. So somebody trash and blown in the middle of the street.
You said the Kennedy was remain the shore. I don't want to hear nothing about them Kennedy. They know they killed that money. They ain't going just looking for those balls. Here's a better story than that. Give me a better story than that. Come on now. They got all that money. That's the best story they got. They went to look for a ball. Rich people went to go look for a ball. They didn't send nobody to go look for it. They went to look for it. And we supposed to believe that. We supposed to believe that. Okay. We supposed to believe that. That's just how I'm telling you, you supposed to believe that there. I see the car coming already. Both ways.
Let's speed up some.
Oh, that must be in the apartment building right there.
Look at how steep these hills are.
Right now, it's cold. I ain't sitting on no bed charging up. Is it fit? Oh, okay, so. Cool.
come, but of course, there's a truck right there. But it's a red light, so I mean, I ain't going anywhere. Sidewalk is down. See it closed. Sidewalk closed. Look at the O's. O'Shea, Pookie, and Ray Ray. Go.
Let's do it the other way. Oh my goodness, whoa! These people running the other way. Back down, the street works to the sidewalk. I'm getting back on the sidewalk. Back down it! That ain't no sense, y'all. Street system buried the sidewalk in it.
All right, y'all. I want y'all to see how they doing things here in Maryland.
I don't expect them to be here.
We looking at videos of the COV. Let me show you what's really happening with the COV. Boo! No, I hate that one. I hate one of them.
Uh-oh. Something wrong. What, we got stand in line? Now, they know it's food stand day. Why they gonna try that on food stand day? Come on now.
It's a line to get into the market.
I don't know why they trying to do this on food stand day.
So how close the lady behind me? There's something wrong with that car, honey.
All I gotta say is, anybody online, if they got theirs on the first, they need to get out of line. Y'all had 3 days.
I'm terrible. Y'all tell me.
The day is for the 10th. You ain't get it on the 10th, get out of line. You think about this stuff.
I ain't lying, I'm telling the truth. Some people got them on the first, some get them on the second, some get them on the fourth, some get them on the seventh, some get them on the 8th. Today is our day. They should already had that stuff.
I tell y'all, see, if I had the strength to make it the power, if I had no power to make it the $70, I would go. This one ain't worth it. But it probably ain't no better.
Y'all noticing they letting 5 out, they letting 5 in. So y'all are seeing it. I ain't gotta show you no video. I am. He told me I can go ahead. Y'all can't go ahead and see y'all suckers later. See y'all suckers later. Hey, Grandma. See you later.
I got to turn that light off. That man said come in, so I said, shoot, I'm jumping in. I'm not going to take you. He said, come on.
Now look, everybody where I want to go. Yeah, he got that boy loaded up. He got that car loaded up.
That's amazing. Hey, what's going on, Liz? Y'all see what's going on in the market? I think you can only go in one direction. There got arrows going down.
You ain't gonna pay that no mind.
Seems like everybody wants to go.
I gotta be around all these people. Look at all the people in the aisle.
Man, I'm going. That's what it says when I got down. So, we got a moment.
Get the basket out.
I'm going to get my basket set up. There we go. All right, let's go.
I put a Kool-Aid in that bag.
There's my A&W.
Sugar free.
4. I'm going to worry about it. You gotta look at that, right? After I had to come in contact with everybody, now they all gone. With everybody. Now they all gone. You gotta notice that, right? So they got them on sale. Is that the whole box?
And that's the only snack I got.
Right.
Cheese and crackers. No crimpets, no cookies, no ice cream.
Let's get out of here.
I could have gone for some ice cream.
I got the cheese and crackers.
I talked myself out of it. So you said only 5 at a time, a lot more than 5 in that. And somebody brought some children in there. Why would you bring children in? I don't understand people.
We ain't had pork chops in a while. You got anything on sale? How much is it? You definitely don't want no turkey ground beef.
Yeah, we had enough of that.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody sent me an email. These are 909.
And we got a slice of ham.
They got one for just 5. That's 539. This funny too, but it's funky. 551. Another block. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. That's no, that's a grade. That's 507. Okay. Oh, 495. I'll take one of these. So, get some set up right here. Let's get set up here. We got pork chops. We got ham. They gave us a couple extra dollars. This month, yeah. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm sick of chicken. I really am. But I'm grateful they got some. I'm sick of it though. Oh, some titty legs. Got time. Oh, they win?
Them daggone Victor Moan legs. What's gonna get them? We don't want them teeny weenies. We don't want them teeny weenies.
So we gotta get some grease.
We want that real deal, Vander Holyfield.
I think I want a full pack. So what's going on with everybody? What's happening? I want some wings. So what's that, 1280, 1277, 1322. I really don't want to get up.
I don't know if y'all noticed, but if you look directly down, you see my hand on my thigh. There's a reason for that. When you smoke cigarettes, you used to having your right hand on the steering wheel and your left hand had a cigarette and you had your arm hanging out the window when you're driving. So I have nothing to do with my hand. So you see, I put it on my thigh. The camera might not let you see it, but sometimes, you'll see me doing like this because you used to holding a cigarette. Some of the shows when I'm playing the keyboard, you'll notice that I'll play with one hand. Sometimes I used to if I want to make the beat, but you'll see the hand on my thigh because it's used to holding a cigarette. And so there's nothing to do with my hand. So I just put it on my thigh.
Tell lazy what I'm going to shop. 13. And again, this car 26. Alright, so we need some grease and some seasoning on. Alright. Let me see if she can hold it. Put it up there. Can you hold it, girl? Can you hold it? You alright, Shorty? Yeah. It's alright. Alright. So now I'm here, come on. So get in here and get up.
Y'all see him? I got my red pants on, got my red sweater on, I got my red Nike Air Force Ones, and I match the car.
Alright. So we got chicken.
Yeah, I'm heading to get some eggs. Because you can see them from way in. They actually got some. Dang, all the orange juice gone. We rode right by there when somebody just sitting there blocking the aisle. Look at they getting all them sweets. Y'all talk about me. Look at they getting all them sweets. Look at her. She's still standing there. Look at her. Getting all them sweets. You talk about me. Look at her. Blocking the aisle. I'm going to leave her in the aisle. I wasn't going to get them. But they had them 2 for $4 last time and I got 4 of them. This time, they got them 2 for $3.
2 for $3?
They got them 2 for $3. That lady's still there. She's still there. If she ain't got diabetes, she got diabetes waiting to happen.
1, 2. So you gonna put you up front.
Go ahead to call her Wilford Brimley. They got that diabetes. Check your diabetes. Check it off it. They got that diabetes.
So now we need jelly and we got butter. So we need jelly.
That woman still at the daggone tasty cake and hostess part. She ain't moved an inch. She ain't moved an inch. I'm waiting on these people to get out the daggone way. He walked right in front of me, ain't even look. Daggone dweeb. Look at that stomach hanging. At least the kid got a mask on. I should have got some ice cream. I thought she was gonna run into me. Oh, excuse me.
You have some jelly. I ain't gonna play with it. Somebody else got better deal? This is big enough. That's a heavy enough. Okay. Alright, so now we need grease.
Come on, Grandma. Get out the way, Granny. Come on now. Look at that, y'all. No grease. No grease. Y'all saw me get all that meat. No grease. Look at that. Shop empty. They cleaned it out. Ain't no cooking oil. I don't know how to cook with olive oil. That's all that's left is olive oil. And the Lord Crisco.
They don't have any cooking on.
I can't believe it's $4 for that little thing.
Who's trying to cook it?
It was $5. Look at that.
They have no cooking on at all? Alright, so that's $4.69. So we're gonna have to get some fresh sauce. Oh, they ain't got no cooking on.
None at all.
I guess we're gonna have to get this fresh sauce, guys. I have to figure out how to use it.
I should have went and see if they had some salmon.
I use the canola oil. There ain't anything I could use. I ain't no cook with olive oil before.
Liz said she purchased grapeseed oil today. Where you at, Liz? When I was in there.
Coconut oil.
Coconut oil. Yeah, I eat coconut. Yeah. The reason them oils there, them oils is like 12, 13, 14. Couple of them are $17 a piece. So, like I said, I got some Crisco.
Ain't got no season on. This time turn back around.
Yeah, all that stuff got to go back. We ain't got no season on. I got a seasoning.
They got something way in the back. Thank goodness. Oh, I get those. There we go. They don't have not one. No cooking over at all, huh? Alright, so you're going to have to come back early in the morning.
Let's speed up, son. Y'all can see I'm in line. It's an old man up there. He's loading dirt, and then I got two old women right there. And one woman stood in line, and the other woman kept shouting.
How much you worth?
Thank you.
She ain't got no mask on, and she didn't walk right next to that lady. It's people like that spread the disease. Liz said, I found aloe gel today. Liz said, I do not like cooking in coconut oil. Liz said, really now, yeah, I haven't been able to find it. Aloe gel oil. Well, I had to get what I know I can work with. We can speed up some because them people slower than dirt.
I'm trying to see if somebody had one and like put it back.
I'm waiting for that woman. I had to tell her, you must have lost your mind, man.
I tell you. I really regret not coming out early in the morning. Tell you that. Should have been here when they opened the doors. Matter of fact. Maybe not tomorrow, but the day after. I'll come back here. I read the quality to 2K. Can somebody tell me how it looks?
Aloe gel for sunburn, but mix that and 70% alcohol makes hand sanitizer. Cool. That's what I should have got today, some hand sanitizer. I ain't gonna, I might go Monday morning. We're gonna go Sunday or Monday. We'll go back to the market, either Sunday or Monday. But tomorrow is the Sabbath, so I'm not going to do anything if I can help it. Let's speed up a little. No hand sanitizer available. I ain't anything to look for it. Wait a minute. I want y'all to see what happened when that lady tried to cut in front of me. See, the woman keep looking back at me. You said check Family Dollar, Walgreens? Okay.
What the good news is, these ain't gonna stand up. I can see behind me.
I thought it was people behind me until I look at the camera. You just heard me say it. Now, I didn't even know it. I could have gotten that line. I ain't even had to deal with the old. No, it's people online. I'm waiting for that lady. Ain't nobody sitting there on that daggone time, it wasn't. You make somebody think somebody sitting there in an epidemic.
There it is. I'm going straight home. We ain't taking no candy break. We going straight home.
Now see, she pulled up.
Oh, I'm maintaining the 6 feet thing. That's fine. I'm good.
The woman told me to come on up, and I said, nah.
Stand up.
Well, I'll sit back. Them old people are slow as dirt. God darn. They slow. Oh, I'm waiting for that woman to come get in front of me, and I'll speed it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to see people out here. I don't want to block the hallway. I'm gonna step yourself and talk to me about buying a real mask. My Amazon had one for 12 tickets. You know it was used. I'm next, man. Where you going? How you doing, Jack?
So, somebody said that woman didn't see me. She went by me about 4 or 5 times, and then stood there in the middle. She saw me sitting there. I was just sitting there and looking stupid. Shoot. That old lady, boy, you could tell us food stand day. She looking to pick up everything. Look at it the whole time. He just looking to pick up stuff. Like, God darn. Tell me to come on up. I'll come on up when you get out the way. At least they had jelly this time. We had that little teeny bottle. Season all.
I knew something was gonna fall. God darn it. Oh, hold on, ran over.
Now y'all know I got 3 boxes of the A&W. See it on the floor right there? Yeah, I keep running over with the cart. So we had to just back over it. Yeah, still can't get it. Man, been on the daggone floor. I heard them use that first.
That everything? Yep. All right. You can hold it, right?
So let's speed up.
And yeah, I actually ran over. You can't? Okay.
Oops.
You know something always got to fall. And then I tried to back up and ran right over. Number of apartment. That thing is still on.
Hey, I didn't actually do. What are you doing? I didn't actually do that, sir. You ain't doing your job. Oh Lord, this thing. Somebody phone you getting hot? How you getting hot, sir?
Get in there. I ain't going nowhere, right? We'll fix it later on.
Oh no. I gotta do it all over again.
Get everything? Get it, please.
Liz said she went to CV yesterday. She ain't even think to look.
The food track did.
Sir, you can be online. I actually know someone who won this, so.
Alright.
Absolutely.
That's pretty good. Oh, that's the A, right? Is everything? That's it, too. That's good. Why are you going in the wrong way? Come on, man.
Any good way you don't come in that way. 12 to 9. Oh, it gotta be some daggone dweeb.
Oh, something fell off already. It's time to come down here and get out the way. Yes, sir. That's the egg. Okay. Now. Okay. Now this is what we're gonna do. Wish he gave me some more bags, but
So I took the eggs and put them in there with the English muffins.
man, I want you to take this part. I'm sorry, I tried to get out the way. Come on, that's the way. Come on. There you go. I'm just trying to get these eggs mashed up. So you can take this out. You can put it here. I can tie that down. But I want the egg. Okay. Hold on. Get in there. Okay. I can pull you out. Put this in here. I got money.
Everybody in there mother walking by me. I need to hurry up.
See? Now. We're gonna put this back in the foil. Hold on. There you go. Alright, we got that out the way. Now, we're going to take this up and we're going to put this right here, okay? Even though it's going to make it a little harder. Now, we're going to put this here, tie it down, and let's go. Now that way, the eggs should be protected. Alright? The eggs should be protected. Alright, so let's turn it on. Alright, let's go. Alright, we good to go. Let's get on home.
So let's get moving.
On hot seat, let's get out of here. I can't believe I only got 3 bags. And I spent $50.
$60.
I spent $60. Jeez. I don't understand. It seems like you spending more money. Oops, I still hit the car. That's because I got the chicken in the front bag. Okay, by the way. Come on, let's get on. I still want to spend a lot of money. But I got my chicken wings. I still got some oil in the house. It ain't much in the bowl. But, I'm going to have to put that.
Hey, Jimmy.
I'm going to have to put the Frisco in there. You know what I'm saying? So let's rock on, y'all. We heading home. I don't know how this helmet looks. All I know is I hope I didn't catch something. That's all I'm worried about. We got food. And I hope I don't have to go back to 7-Eleven. That's what I don't want to do. There goes a good can, I don't drink. It ain't doing me no good. somebody trying to offer me a brewski. I don't want it. So I'm just trying to get home. Now hopefully we won't, I put the eggs in the big basket in the back. Hopefully. And I'm really suffering because I put the, it's harder to steer. Because I got the chicken in the pork chop. Dang. Alright, y'all. Let's finally get home. It's that same truck, ain't it? Alright, so hopefully this man's protecting me in the market. Hopefully got to go home, wash my hands. I haven't touched my face, even though this ant.
Yes, everything is well. This is me out at the store today.
Like I said, all we trying to do is get home. The wind blowing. It's not letting me, you know. But like I said, I'm not used to wearing this mask, but I hope y'all can hear what I'm saying.
I like that yellow house right there.
Let me turn the music back on. No, we don't want to hear that. Alright, y'all, this is the last deal right here. We'd like to take y'all on a more scenic route, but there's a car behind me, that's it. Or is that a pump car? Oh, this is gonna break your head.
Look at all them branches.
I don't know these tree branches that came down.
Wind blew them down.
Hopefully y'all can get the eggs home this time. Y'all know the last time we didn't get them.
On the wind again.
I don't believe it. You actually gonna make it? Are you serious?
Yeah, I didn't believe that either. That was a straight shot.
What the hell? What is that? Right there. Now we are. You want to run over something? Yeah, let's go. All right, sir, you had a chance to rest for a second.
We not moving, that's the wind.
And let's go. All right, so we going up here. This is the last hill right here. And then we got it. Now, the helicopter was flying around yesterday. And then I heard gunshots in my early. And I heard somebody jump in the car and kill along. And then I heard somebody say, hey! And then you heard nothing. That was rough right there. So let's sit back and relax.
That's a nice little church right there.
I'm gonna wash this mask off.
Yeah, I remember we had to come up these hills. Now we going back down.
So y'all see how it is? They let you in the store 5 at a time. There was more than 5 people in there though. So next time we go early. Next time we go to the store, we going early.
Let's speed this up.
Now we made it. Across Lock Haven with no problem. But you know. What's on? You got it that way.
All right, still going down the mountain.
I know somebody blew a horn. Damn. I was around a lot more people than I wanted to be today. Well, hopefully, we didn't catch anything. So. Huh? Oh, you on the door then. Alrighty, y'all, we are home.
Did y'all hear what he said?
Oh, you on?
Listen.
Huh? Oh, you on the door then. Alrighty, y'all, we are home. Whatever the mail is.
He or she said, can I hold that for a second? Can I play with it? Why am I going to let you play with my scooter?
I'm glad you didn't. It looks like I just might break. I hope not. Alright. They're gonna mail lady. I don't know if you made it here or not. I don't see her. But we home. That's what matters. We are home. I'm not here. Really didn't want to touch my face, but I moved their head up. So y'all, we doing pretty good. What the hell did we get? What the hell did we get that so expensive? Yeah, I'll get 150. The eggs, 359. The drink net, the snack, $90 in here. The pork chop. Okay.
So where the mail lady come from? There she go.
Yeah, it was going to be here.
Well, if I got them juice that I bought yesterday, I stand it.
Oh, well, do you know what I'm saying?
Huh?
Can I tell you something to say?
What? Well, you ain't got no stand on here.
You know what I'm saying?
What?
I just bought 4 of these when it's 40 in here.
Oh, for real?
I ordered this one a third.
What is it? Mary?
No, it's nicotine cartridge.
Oh, you always get that stuff with smoking.
Yeah, because I ain't had a cigarette in almost 4 years.
Oh, for real? Yeah. So you still gotta take that and order it not smoking?
I know some people ain't with no quick. But I like that because these, you don't smack. You know, there's a lot of people that don't like the gum because they smack. And people like, you know, or you chew them like a cow. I know you heard that before. Come on, you heard that before. Oh, thank you, man. So certain, what they want? I went down there and they wouldn't let me in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this day won't see
They're
no
just
music.
sending out letters to just, people with increases on their stand. So that might be something to get.
Yeah, they gave me a little increase. I ain't gonna cry. Oh, yeah? Yeah, that's done. I can hear him. You know what? You won't believe I sent some two emails that they cussing them up. I feel bad now. I'm good.
Tell them patient can't wait.
What do you mean they're patient? Then you know, I don't know if you was the one that brought it, but the girl said that there was another package.
And end it, so we're not gonna be able to hear the guy. All right, that's when the camera died. That's the one thing we're gonna need. We're gonna need a camera that I can plug in. All righty. Let me pull up the OBS, and we got some more links to look at, y'all. But y'all got to see how we have to shop here in Maryland. Only a certain amount of people in the store. You can only go a little bit at a time. You know you're wrong for that, but I ain't gonna say nothing. I told you to go right there. All right, y'all. We got some links to look at. Huh.
Just minutes ago, President Trump said that ultimately the decision to keep the country open or closed is in his hands.
I will say this. I want to get it open as soon as we can. We have to get our country open, Jeff.
You say, sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here. That's my metrics. That's all I can do. I can listen to 35 people. At the end, I got to make a decision. It's the biggest decision I've ever had to make.
I want to bring in CNN's Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin, President Trump was asked specifically about this theoretical May 1st reopening date and if that's realistic right now. What did he have to say?
Yeah, the president seemed to say that, yes, he does want the economy open. He says he's going to make decisions based on his health advisors there that were in the room with him, Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, and that he doesn't want to open up the country before it's safe to do so. But, Jake, the president is dealing with two different factions here, and he's not really giving any indication of what metrics specifically he's going to be using to make that decision based on how many people can be tested, how many tests are being administered a week, what the attack rate is in certain areas. Instead, he just basically said he is going to be the one making the ultimate decision here. And of course, we know this comes as there are many discussions underway inside the White House right now, including with the president about reopening the U.S. economy starting next month. And Jake, they're even talking specifically about May 1st. The president said they are going to be announcing that second task force on Tuesday. That's the task force that's solely focused on reopening the economy. So it certainly is something that the president is discussing. And Jake, what was also notable is just how hesitant the doctors in the room were to talk about reopening the economy next month. You heard Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci both get up there. They said we are not seeing the peak yet in the United States. And also, neither of them really commented on that new New York Times reporting about those projections about what could happen and how cases and infections could spike if those social distancing guidelines are let up after 30 days. So basically what you're going to see play out in the White House over the next 2 weeks or so before we get to that end date is a difference between the economic advisors who want the president to get the country open and the health advisors who still do not think it is time to do so yet.
And Caitlin, President Trump was also asked about how some of his allies and supporters have been attacking Dr. Fauci and whether or not they were wrong to do so, and the president refusing to answer that directly, praising Fauci, but not condemning these wild accusations coming from the far right.
Yeah, he offered no criticism of the people who have criticized the doctors that have been leading him through this and advising him on this. He only complimented them, but he did not say that they should knock it off or that they should stop criticizing people like Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. And you could even see that when people like, when Dr. Birx was answering a question about the models, that she had a sense of, you know, I've answered this question a lot of times before, as she her personally has faced criticism over people saying she's putting too much faith in the models that the president is then being presented with.
All right, Caitlin Collins, thanks so much. Joining me now is former Trump administration FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who's been a leading voice about the coronavirus outbreak since January, warning the Trump administration back in early February. Dr. Gottlieb, thanks so much for joining us. So let's talk about the president's desire. All of us, we have a desire to go back to normal. How widespread do you think testing needs to be before it's safe to begin a process of getting back to normal in some way?
Well, look, I think the bottom line is we're not going to have the testing in place that's optimal in terms of where you want to be when you start returning people into closed spaces, returning people to work. So that's just the reality. Hopefully, the fact that we're heading into the summer, and the summer should be somewhat of a backstop against transmission of this virus as we head into June, July, and August, that's going to help us. But I think the reality is we're going to be returning people to work in May and June before we have all of the capacities in place that we want to in terms of testing. In terms of the number of tests you want to perform, as we're coming out of this epidemic, there's still going to be a lot of cases accruing. So you want to have enough to keep up with the cases that are still accruing and do pretty aggressive surveillance in the community to make sure new clusters aren't forming. So we're talking about the capacity to do millions of tests a week, probably several million. A rule of thumb might be that there are 3.8 million encounters with the primary care system every week. You might want to test that level of people. You might want to test upwards of 3.8 million people every week, people who are presenting to the healthcare system for whatever reason, just swab them for coronavirus for a time being to try to detect outbreaks while they're still small.
Why do you say the summer will be a backstop? I thought that the latest guidance from the National Academy of Sciences was that this summer is not going to have a favorable effect on the virus, that the warm air doesn't actually have an effect.
Well, we don't know for sure. Coronas typically don't circulate in the summertime, so there is a seasonal aspect to coronaviruses generally. This one's so novel that it's likely to continue to transfer into the summer, but droplet transmission becomes less efficient in the really hot, humid months. And also epidemiology of spread changes because people are outside more, they're not inside. So you do get different spread of viruses in the summer, and typically what spreads in the summertime are enteric viruses and not necessarily viruses like this that are respiratory viruses. But we don't know whether or not this is going to have a seasonal component. The one thing I would say, though, is that when you look at where this has become epidemic, it's the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere has not had epidemic spread yet, and the risk is that when they go into their winter, they too are going to suffer epidemics of this, and then we'll want to come back here in the fall.
But Dr. Gottlieb, you've written a proposal on how to reopen the country, for want of a better term. What does it look like, and is President Trump listening to your ideas?
Well, I've certainly made them available to the White House. What we're saying in the plan that we put forward was that you want to see a sustained reduction in new cases, and then you want to wait an additional 2 weeks after you see a sustained reduction in new cases. We should start seeing a sustained reduction in new cases in most parts of this country in the second half of April and towards the end of April. So if you follow the timing that we outlined, that would put you in mid-May when you start to contemplate bringing people back to work. But the other thing we say is that you should have widespread screening in place. You should have the ability to do point-of-care screening in the community. And right now, screening is largely confined to hospitals. We don't have the capacity to broaden it. So we do need to continue to ramp up screening. I think that's going to be the big variable. I think we're going to be taking a step towards reopening aspects of the economy before we have the optimal level of screening in place. And that's the risk that we're going to take.
But you think it's worth taking that risk? It's not worth waiting until we have the right amount of testing out there or the right amount of screening out there?
Look, it's going to be, it's a careful balancing. As a public health official, I'd like to have the optimal screening in place. I'd like to have the hospitals have residual capacity. I'd like to, exercise more caution. But we also need to recognize, quite frankly, that there are public health implications to what we're doing here as well. The longer we keep the country closed, there's a lot of morbidity and mortality that's accruing because of that. People who aren't presenting for prenatal care, aren't presenting with mild strokes or mild heart attacks, are staying at home. There's going to be deaths and disease as a result of the fact that we've engaged in what we've done. So it's a careful balancing. I'd like to see more screening in place. I'd especially like to see more screening in place for the fall. And so that's another concern. We're worried about May, but we also need to worry about August and having in place what we need as we go back to school in September, as we reopen residential campuses, that we can have much more widespread screening and hopefully 1 or 2 effective therapeutics to deal with this virus. If we don't have that by September, we're going to face a lot of risk in the fall that we have outbreaks and even the risk of another epidemic.
And Dr. Gottlieb, when you talk about screening, are you talking about the coronavirus test that is out there right now, that there have been about 2 million of them done? Are you talking about antibody tests, which detects whether or not you were exposed to the virus and developed antibodies? What kinds of screening are you talking about?
I'm talking about tests that can diagnose active infection. The serology tests that you talked about, the tests for antibodies, they're useful for public health decision making. You might find a community that's been heavily exposed to the virus, and in that case, you might make a decision if there's an outbreak there not to implement stay-at-home orders versus a community where very few people have been exposed to the virus. So the antibody tests help inform public health decision making. But when we do those tests on a mass scale, they're called serology tests. When we test the population broadly to see who's been exposed to this and developed antibodies, I think we're going to find it's a very small percentage, anywhere from 1 to 5% of the total population. Now, there's pockets where it could be higher. Let's say Queens, New York, it's probably a higher percentage, but it's going to be low overall. And even when you look at professionals who've been exposed to this virus, TSA workers, people who work on checkout lines in grocery stores, healthcare workers, people who touch a lot of people as part of their job, even there, I think you're going to find that the level of exposure is probably about 10%. It's not going to be very high. So there's not this mass population of people who now are immune to this virus and can return to work safely. It's a rather small percent.
Dr. Scott Gottlieb, thank you so much for your expertise. Really appreciate it. I hope you'll come back soon.
Oops. Alrighty. Okay. right, next link.
To have you with us. Thank you very much. I know that these have been very long days, and we're glad to have you with us on this Friday evening. I'd like to start with the question of these models, which are now getting a lot of pushback in terms of their reliability when the numbers have swung, 33% in just a couple of days. What do you say to Andy McCarthy, who wrote that piece?
Well, I mean, there's a certain validity to it. I have been and still am and will always be somewhat reserved and skeptical about models because models are only as good as the assumptions that you put into the model. And those assumptions that start off when you don't have very much data at all, or the data that you have is uncertain, that you put these assumptions in and you get these wide ranges of calculations of what might happen, 100,000 to 240,000 deaths. But then as you start to accumulate data that's real data, are likely being influenced heavily by the mitigation programs that you put in, the physical separations, that when real data comes in, then data, in my mind, always trumps any model. And you have to modify the model and the assumptions as you get data in. So I have no problem with people who are critical of modeling, because modeling is inherently an imperfect science. So I don't really have any quibbling with that. And you just got to make sure as you collect real data, you rely more on the data than you do on a model.
Yeah, sure. I mean, all of that makes a lot of sense. But I think one of the problems is that those models were what were used to shut down the United States economy. The fear that those numbers, when we looked at 100,000 to 240,000 people, and that was, I should point out, including mitigation and social distancing. That was with that factored in. So that number has dropped by 33%. So I guess, what kind of model is so far off that it leads us to policy-making decisions that now are having such dire consequences?
Yeah, well, first, I think it's important to point out that it isn't the model or the result of the model that really led to the decision to have such strong mitigation programs such as physical separation. You don't even have to look at any model. Just take a look at what happened in China. Take a look at what happened in northern Italy, how the hospitals were completely overrun and the draconian methods that had to be taken in China to turn down their outbreak. So, I mean, if I never saw a result of a model, that alone would clearly indicate that something rather significant needed to be done to prevent the spread. So, again, getting back to models, and I never argue with anybody that has a problem with a model. I inherently have problems with models.
Yeah. I should point out that obviously everyone is very glad that these numbers are so much further south than what was anticipated. I mean, that's a good story. That's good news. And obviously for every one of those families that is losing any of the 17,000 people who have passed away, and I should also point out people who are currently struggling with this really vicious virus want these precautions to be taken. And I think that, obviously we need to be very clear about that. But just looking across the country, and when you talk about what happened in Italy, I think that was one of the biggest fears in this country, that people would go without a ventilator, that people would go without a bed, an ICU unit. And it looks now that we have built a lot of these facilities that, thank God, are never going to be used. Is it true that no one has gone without an ICU bed or a ventilator who needed one in this country?
Yeah, to my knowledge, that is a correct statement. And again, I can't absolutely guarantee, but we would hear about it. I can be absolutely certain if that were the case. Yeah. But I think you just said something that is a correct statement.
So let's talk a little bit about reopening the economy. You heard the president say today in the briefing that this would be the toughest decision of his life and certainly of his presidency to this point. Because if it backfires, if this thing starts spreading again like wildfire, of course, all the fingers will be pointed towards him, the ultimate decision maker in this process. What are your thoughts on when it's going to be safe to go back? And what measures will you be looking at to advise him on that?
Well, I think people need to understand that the issue of going back to essentially reopening the country, which is a terminology.
Oh, Lord.
Should they be?
Shucks.
That people sometimes use if you consider the physical separation in many respects has shut down so many things. I think reopening it is not going to be like a light switch that you switch on or off. Because if you look at throughout the country, it's a large country and the outbreaks are really quite different depending upon where you are. New York, New Jersey area is very different from now what we've seen in Washington State and in California, in which there was the threat of a real big spike, but it really didn't occur, and it's at that low level. New Orleans, in some respects, was very much like New York and Detroit also. So if you're going to essentially make the first steps of trying to gradually open up the country and hence the economy, there are a lot of parameters. First of all, you got to take a look at where the country as a whole and individual components of the country, like New York. Now, New York right now, interestingly, has had, as we predicted, essentially the worst week imaginable. Every day was more deaths than the previous day. But the issue is that the deaths lag behind about 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks of what feeds into the outbreak, namely the number of new cases that lead to hospitalization, that lead to intensive care, that lead to death. So although this was a bad week, we're starting to see a plateauing and a turning around of the curve in New York. If that steeply goes down, the way we predict it will, once you get over that hump, then that's really good news from the standpoint of being able to take a look now at New York and how we could start maybe getting back to some form of normality. It's a little bit different if you're dealing in some of the Midwest or mountain states, which don't have those big spikes. So the parameters are, we've got to look on it literally on a day by day, week by week basis about what's going on in various parts of the country. Because it's not going to be unidimensional, that the whole country is on and the whole country is off. It's just not going to be that way.
So just give me an example. Like, what can you foresee? And I'm not going to hold you to this date, but we've talked about May 1st. So let's just say on the day that you start to open some things up, what do you foresee that looking like? I mean, what sort of things would start the wheels turning first? What would be the safest things to open?
The safest thing to open is you look at what is essential to the functioning of the community. You know, besides healthcare providers, besides emergency responders, the police, the firemen, there are other things economically that need to get back. I mean, I was talking to people, for example, at food plants and people who are responsible for communications and electricity and things like that. You're going to want to get them back as quickly as you possibly can. And then others who can still telework at home, you might be able to be as well functioning just teleworking at home. But there are some jobs that have been shut down that have to go beyond teleworking. And those are the ones you want to see. How do we get them back safely? And there's going to be some very interesting and I think creative ways of doing that.
Is May 1 a day when you can imagine some of that beginning?
It is quite possible. And, you know, the president was asked this specific question at the press conference today. And he said he will take it, you know, on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis. And at that point, he will consult with the health people, myself and others, physicians and health workers who are on the task force, and then make a decision. Right. And that's why he said, appropriately, it's one of the most important, if not the most important decision that he'll make.
Do you envision that, you know, when people go back, hopefully, to school and football games and things like that in the fall, hopefully, that we will all be wearing masks in these places?
I think that's conceivable. You know, we know now that there are that people who may be asymptomatic, who don't know that they're infected, could clearly spread the infection. You know, one of the ways of wearing a physical barrier there doesn't necessarily have to be the classic masks that healthcare providers wear, is that you must assume that you help me and I help you. I'm assuming that I might be infected and you assume that you might be infected. If you wear that, you can decrease, it's not going to be 100% by any means, but you certainly could decrease the likelihood that there would be spread. So I do see the fact that wearing a mask
in situations where you can't feasibly and do your function and your job, stay 6 feet from someone, then a mask might be an important tool that we use.
Yeah.
It's the
All right, y'all, we got one more for you.
Well, it has been a busy day for the Treasury Department. First, they released the direct deposit web portal for everyone who wasn't required to file a tax return in 2019. And not long ago, they announced the details of their new Get My Payment web app that's going to launch early next week. Now, this app is going to allow you to track the status of your stimulus check and allow those who did have to file their taxes the ability to give the IRS their direct deposit information. In today's video, I'm going to tell you what is and what isn't in this app. And you know, videos like this, that's why I keep telling you, subscribe, hit that notifications bell, so as soon as these become live, you're going to know. So there's going to be two parts to this new app they are releasing. One component is going to be the check tracking. And once this app goes live, you'll be able to put in your social security number, your date of birth, and your mailing address, and then you'll find out the status of your check. The other component is going to allow taxpayers who filed their tax return in 2018 or 19 but did not provide their banking information on their tax return the ability to submit direct deposit information. This will let you get your stimulus check in your bank account instead of waiting for weeks, if not months, to get one in the mail. And to add your bank account information, you're going to need to gather some information. And I recommend getting this together now so you can put it in as soon as the tool is launched, because once your check is scheduled, you are not going to be able to add your bank information through this app. You're going to need your adjusted gross income from your most recent tax return, either 2019 or 18, the refund or amount owed from the latest filed tax return, and your bank account type, account number, and routing number. Now, there's one thing that this app is not going to do that I wish wasn't the case, but I understand why. You will not be able to change your bank information that the IRS has on file. So if you change bank accounts for whatever reason, that's likely where the payment is going to go. Now, they're doing this to avoid fraud, so I get it. I just wish there was another way. Well, that's all for now. Stay tuned, and I'll keep you informed as this gets closer. Thanks for watching.
Ready? Alrighty, y'all. I'm dead tired. I fell asleep yesterday doing the show. Tomorrow is Saturday sermon and it's Easter weekend. So would y'all like to see a sermon on the would y'all like to see a sermon on Christ being arrested, executed, and rising, or y'all got something else y'all would rather hear about? Anybody got a topic for the sermon? Let me know. It's Easter. I'm thinking about just reliving the I'm thinking about reliving the resurrection. We'll just go through the story for the Mars sermon. Anybody else have an idea? Hello? Anybody here? Naya says whatever you decide. Oh, this something we didn't talk about. What time should the sermon be tomorrow? Y'all still want it at 1 o'clock? Or you want it at 5? What time do y'all want tomorrow? Tell you right now, I am drowsy as I don't know what. I was thinking about putting some music on. Maybe that wake me up. But then we can't even. We don't have a. See if I can wake up. All right, y'all, let's look at this article I just pulled up. Everyone wants to know when we are going to be able to leave our homes and reopen the United States. That's the wrong way to frame it. The better question is, how will we know when to reopen the country? And that date, any date that is currently being thrown around is just a guess. It's pulled out of the air. To this point, Americans have been reacting, often too late and rarely with data. Most of us are engaged in social distancing because leaders have seen what's happening in Europe or in New York. They want to avoid getting there, and we don't have the testing available to know where the CV hotspots really are. Since the virus appears to be everywhere, we have to shut everything down. That's unlikely to be the way we'll exit, though. We will exit that way. Some cities or states will recover sooner than others. It's helpful to have criteria about which cities or states could determine they're ready. A recent report by Scott Catlin Rivers, Mark B. McClellan, Laura Silvers, and Crystal Watson staked out some goal points. Hospitals in the state must be able to safely treat all patients requiring hospitalization without resorting to crisis standards of care. Other cities and states fear they will approach New York City state of crisis. They're trying to increase the number of available beds and ventilators, as well as doctors, nurses, and other healthcare providers to make sure they aren't overwhelmed in their capacity to provide care to those who need it. This is the most immediate bar and the focus of most public health officials' attention. At the moment, there's no reason to believe any area is over a surge of cases, and analysts' models predict many places won't peak for weeks to come. A state needs to be able to at least test everyone who has symptoms. Dr. Caleb and colleagues estimate the nation would need to have the capacity to run 750,000 tests a week. This is after things have calmed down greatly. There are times we might need even more. The 750,000 number should be viewed as a reasonable expectation for when we haven't been having any major pockets or regional outbreaks to manage, said Mark McClennan, an author of the report and a professor of business, medicine, and policy at Duke. If more testing to help contain outbreaks and potential outbreaks is needed, which seems very plausible, especially early on, the number will need to be significantly larger. We'll also have to do some surveillance of people without symptoms, especially in higher risk settings. A national estimate means less indirect than whether a state can reopen than its local capabilities. A state would need to be sure it could test every single person who might be infected, and we have the results in a timely manner. That will be the only way to achieve the next requirement. A robust system, tracing and isolation is the only thing that can prevent an outbreak and resulting lockdown from reoccurring. Every time an individual will test positive, the public health infrastructure needs to be able to determine whom that person has been in contact with, find those people, and have them go into isolation or quarantine until it's established they aren't affected too. This will be a big challenge for most areas. Other countries have relied on cell phone tracking technology to determine whom people have been near. We don't have anything like that ready, nor is it even clear we'd allow it. The United States also doesn't have enough people working in the public health. Enough people working in public health in many areas to carry out this task. Building their capacity will take significant time and money, and the country hasn't even started. There must be a sustained reduction in cases for 14 days. Because it can take for 2 weeks for symptoms to emerge, any infections that have already happened can take that long to appear. If the number of cases in the area is dropping steadily for that much time, however, public officials can reasonably, comfortably, that suspension as a person has been achieved, defined by every other infected person fewer than the other. And suppression cases will dwindle. Case will dwindle at an exponential fashion. just as they rose. It's not possible to set a benchmark number for every state because the number of infections that will be manageable in any area depends on the local population and the public health system ability to handle sporadic cases. All right, I'm bored. All right, so I'm gonna take me a nap. Alrighty, everyone. Alrighty, y'all. I'm gonna do a wrestling review when I wake up for those that might be interested. And I will see y'all tomorrow for the Saturday sermon. Hope y'all have a great night. And I will see y'all tomorrow. I'm not gonna say why I'm so drowsy, but I know why. Because I went out today trying to thing up and down the steps. So I will see y'all soon. See y'all later on. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all. Some of y'all I might see later on tonight. Maybe around 12 or 1. So have a good one, y'all. Thanks for watching once again.